Hello, friends and bees and friends who are also bees, and welcome to this week's Indie Thursday stream. This week, my captioner continues not to caption. Oops, save. Is that working? There we go. Just have to bully it a bit. Welcome. As you can see from the title, this week we are finally moving on to Miotsukushi Omote. Hopefully, there won't be any technical problems, knock on wood. But we shall see. As with many of the other games that the console arcs, this is a alternate ending. It's sort of it's an alternative to Matsuri Bayashi, going back to our old friends, the crew. And yeah, I'm just gonna get started. I'm also gonna warn you guys, I am feeling inexplicably quite queasy. So there is a chance that stream may end early anyway, just because I am feeling ill. But I'm gonna try my hardest. Drink lots of water. Cold water, that'll help. Start. We want Miotsukushi Omote. Waterway exhausting surface. Alternate ending should be read after completing chapter 8. Omote and Ura, two separate arcs that happen concurrently. It can be read in any order. I'm going to do Ura after I do like the advanced story arc because it's more relevant to that. Ugh. Pardon me, goodness. I would like to not choices and correct. I like correct answers. I don't actually know what the Miotsukushi endings are, so I'm gonna have to look that one up. Hopefully, Higurashi. Okay, well, we'll see. It's so warm. I wonder why. It feels like a gentle warmth is gazing at me from deep within my heart. Feels nice. Why though? Even though I can't reach out and touch it. Somehow, just having it nearby makes me feel at ease. Being able to float by that girl's side, it reaches both my body and my heart. I don't know anything. I don't understand anything. The words that she spoke before suddenly came to mind. In a flash of pure white. And yet, thanks to a few callous words, they drifted so far from their original meaning that they couldn't even reach me. After all, even if we try again, the end result will be the same. And so, she smiled with a slight look of disappointment on her face as she said that. Seeing that, I gently approached her and listened closer. My phone would like me to know that I am live. Luckily, I did already know that. It's unhelpful. Whatever. I listened closer. I couldn't quite hear what she was trying to convey. No, maybe the meaning wasn't in her words. Still, my heart throbbed when I heard that voice, and I could feel the warmth coursing through my entire body. I couldn't help but feel nostalgic. Yes, I'm sure it was something important, something precious that I lost long ago. And before I knew it, I'd stretched both my hands out to receive some proof of that, my heart overflowing as I boldly called out to that voice. I don't want to let go. I want us to be together forever. Wherever you are, I hope that wish somehow reaches you. However, you could have expected that thought would be the beginning of her long, arduous, and painful journey. Yes, even for a god. Because As I woke up, I found myself laying on a futon. Warm sunlight came shining in from beyond the window. Morning already? I could hear the faint chatter of birds outside the window, and the voice of the cicadas echoed along with them, like the sound of drizzling rain. As usual, when I have been doing Rika POV arcs, I'm going to, unless she's in a scene with other people, just do my normal voice for her. I think it'll be easier. The comforter felt terribly heavy and the futon was extremely large. Did I really have something like this? No, that wasn't it. The ceiling was higher than usual. Plus, there were no leaky water stains and the grain on the wood was clear and easy to see. This is a room I don't know. No, that's not quite right. The ceiling is definitely still somewhere in the depths of my memory. I'd just forgotten because it was so long ago, but it's taking some time to recollect. Come to think of it, I never did like that design. When was that from? Before long, my consciousness came back to me, and I sensed the faint aroma of incense. That too felt so familiar. Huh? I still felt drowsy when I rose out of the futon. Then a white towel fell right in front of my eyes, and my forehead started to feel hot as soon as it dropped. A dull, heavy pain, a nausea sensation coursed from the nape of my neck to the back of my head. I picked up the towel lying on top of the comforter. It was cold. As soon as I felt that, I realized what I was doing in bed here. Right, this is my house. The Furude house that I haven't visited in so long. Not since moving in together with Satoko. And this was my room. Somehow I understood. I'm sure this world is a dream where the gears of time have been rewound. How nostalgic. I was feeling unusually sentimental. After all this time and having so many dreams, how long has it been since I thought about this room? And that desk? And that clock? And that digitally drawn picture of a group of kids and that terrible portrait of my mother? Even though I never thought about it, when I saw it all, I remembered it all so fondly. A strange sensation was emanating from my chest, but I'd never say it was unpleasant. Oh. I suddenly noticed something in the corner of my sight and crawled out of the futon. I felt a little dizzy as I stood up, and my footsteps felt unsteady as I walked closer, but then I picked it up. Long time no see. How have you been? I gently hugged it and kissed the tip of its nose. It was nothing special, just a teddy bear. But it was precious because my mother gave it to me. After my mother went missing, I could never find it. A memory came back for a moment of a time I saw it on display at a festival stall as a prize for a shooting game, but that can't be. That's right. Then I noticed the sounds coming from beyond the sliding door to the kitchen. The satisfying sound of vegetables being cut with the kitchen knife. And on top of that, I could hear the faint sound of something simmering in a pot, probably rice porridge being made for me. And I could see the silhouette of a person standing beyond the screen at the door. Mum? It was only a shadow, but there was no way I could mistake it. My chest painfully tightened. It was so nostalgic, my thoughts were running wild, and the back of my throat was trembling. I figure I was trying to forget. Memories came back of the sadness, the aggravation, and the love I felt for her. All of that was right there behind that door. I wanted to open the door. I wanted to open it, jump out, and hug her from behind. And then I wanted to see her face warp with surprise, followed by her rebuking and scolding me, yet still looking back at me with a gentle smile. However, that was impossible. This dream would probably end once I opened that door. No, that's not right. Maybe my mother wouldn't even smile for me anymore. That fear and anxiety prevented me from taking a step closer. The reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama. As much as the village elders admired and respected me, that very notion was causing the distance between my mother and I to grow wider and wider. I just wanted her to admit it. More than anyone else, I wanted her to understand that my friend Hanyuu was always by my side. The reason I was better at cooking than everyone else, or the way I could predict things before they happened. I had no desire to flaunt that I was special. It was my friend who taught me that. The reason I could do all those things that nobody ever taught me was because I always had her by my side. And so, I tried to tell her at every opportunity, and I wanted her to believe what I was saying, but my mother wasn't happy with that. In fact, it creeped her out and made her distrust me. I was sad at first. So I tried as hard as I could to make her understand. But when I realised it was futile, I got upset. Why? Why? Even though you're my family, my mother, I thought you were the one person who could understand, even if nobody else would. No matter how hard it is to believe, it's not a lie. For the sake of my peace of mind, I need you to understand. And yet you... How foolish. That's not it. Looking back at my past self is strange and disheartening. Right. It wasn't just my mother's fault. I was being conceited with my assumptions and the way I spoke. She was just being a mother, worrying about me and doing her best to care for me. If I hadn't said anything in the first place, it would have ended there. If she saw me acting my age, being delighted and throwing tantrums, I'm sure my mother would have loved me and treated me as kindly as she did in the beginning. If I'd only taken it more slowly while trying to explain Hanyuu to her. She is my mother after all, so I'm sure she'd have come to understand one day. Even now, I still believe that. Nevertheless, I wasn't able to do that. I was the one who gave up. I was sulking and acting cold, and on the other hand, I was showing off and looking down at her. But how does someone feel when you do that to them? By the time I considered that, it was already too late. Even with Hanyuu's power, I couldn't go back far enough to try again. How lonely. Even now, it's just so lonesome. But even so, Mum. I've never said Mom, I've always said Mum, even though I tend to write MOM. If all I could do was apologise to her, that would be enough. I just wanted to let her know, by any means. I'm sorry for enjoying rainy days. I'm sorry for not liking the lunches you prepared. I'm sorry for not reciprocating your love. And, sorry. With that thought in mind, I slid the door open. Then I woke up. I could hear the faint sound of crickets chirping. This was the house I'd grown accustomed to living in, detached from the Miotsukushi household. I could see Satoko sleeping quietly in the futon lined up right beside mine. The moonlight pouring in through the window slightly illuminated the dusky room. Oh, that's right. My groggy mind and fuzzy memories cleared right up. I remembered I'd just come back through time and I'd returned to that time period. Right. I've arrived at the tragedy of Hinamizawa. The fun, lively time I spent with my friends up until that point, full of casual daily repetition, but with one key difference. Miotsukushi. This time I could remember it clearly. The true culprit who tore my belly open and killed me. The one who used the curse of Ayashiro-sama to trample on our friend's thoughts. The one whose wretched plan has kept me locked in this prison. Our true enemy. At one point I relied on her, just a little bit. I used to think she was a kind and gentle person, who cared about Satoko and I, but... Yes, I've already forgotten her. As long as that woman exists, my friends and I can never be happy. This time, I'm sure I'll stop her. From making me repeat this crazy word. I was finally starting to cool off. It's been a long time since I've gotten this emotion. Just like that time, when Keiichi and the others showed me that. Right. I lifted my body out of the futon, and then called out to the friend who was always by my side. Hanyuu, what day is it now? Year, month, and day. I asked the same question at the start, every single time. How much time did I have before the fateful day I've been unable to avoid until now? That time period was gradually shrinking, giving me less and less time to spend on making preparations. But this time things were a little different. I now know who was a friend and who was an enemy. That was a key factor that I never had in any of the prior worlds. I'm trying to work out how... So this is like an alternative Matsuri Bayashi. But I'm trying to work out how it fits, like, into the canon, I guess. Well, we'll see by the ending, I guess, whether it should go... Like, I know you're supposed to read it after Matsuri Bayashi, but, like, there was so much emphasis on Matsuri being, like, the the last loop, as it were, the last round, and there was nothing else we could do, so I wonder if this is just like, I guess like a Matsuri Bayashi where the dice fall slightly differently. Maybe that's how I should think of it. That was a key factor that I never had in any of the prior worlds. I don't know yet how to fight it. I still don't know if I can win, if I can escape from this curse of fate. But even so, it feels like I can see a faint light that I could never see before. It was like looking down a long dark tunnel. The light seemed almost small enough to be consumed by the surrounding darkness, but it was a strong, powerful light. So I'll keep fighting. I rose to my feet and stepped forward, stoutly swinging my fist. But in order to do that, I needed to know how much time I had left. Hanyuu? That's odd. I can't hear her. Her voice isn't there. No, not just that. There weren't any signs of her presence at all. Even though she was always talking to me, sometimes enough to make me feel uncomfortable. Hanyuu? What's the matter, Hanyuu? This is weird. Hanyuu? This has never happened before. Hanyuu! She isn't answering. Hanyuu! She isn't here? Hanyuu! What's wrong, Rika? I came back to my senses. I'd suddenly started shouting, forgetting that Satoko was sleeping right beside me. You're shouting red things in the middle of the night. Is something wrong? Me? It's nothing. Guess I was just having a bad dream. I awkwardly left off with my usual speech habits. This is bad. I was so shaken up that I couldn't make the switch all too well. Okay. Don't worry about it. Please, go back to sleep. Hang on. I think I mentioned this on Tuesday, but it feels like I've got the frog in my throat. Either of my voice dropping or just that I've got like a summer cold type thing. So, I've been coughing every so often to try and like clear my throat. Apparently, like it feels more like you have a sore throat than like what I've got, which feels like I have a frog in my throat. But anyway, hello. Good night. Good night. Whatever you were dreaming about, just forget it. Satoko was already half asleep as she said that, then quickly closed her eyes and went back to sleep. After seeing that, I quietly climbed out of bed and ran outside. Hanyuu! Can you hear me, Hanyuu? Answer me! I desperately called out to the void around me. She was always by my side. No matter where I went, what I did, or what I was thinking. I always understood that. And yet this time, why? Hanyuu. I looked up at the sky in bewilderment. The moon was shining down on me through the dark sky. The night sweats combined with a chilling evening breeze made it feel like all the blood in my body had frozen over, and I began trembling. I finally reached a world where hope was in sight. My enemy was in sight, and my goal, even though I still didn't know how things would end. And I was able to believe in my incredible friends. I'm not alone. Rain is here, plus Mion, Shion, Satoko, and Keiichi. I wanted to believe that by combining our strength, I could find the hope, and one last chance. And yet, despite that, I knew. Feeling shocked and finally recognizing the implications of that fact, I fell down to my knees on the spot. My greatest ally, who I've relied on all this time to maintain my peace of mind, does not exist in this world. Oh, fuck. Skip past that, made me jump. I do not want to risk that, copyright claim. The classroom immediately filled. Okay, look up the ending thing another time. Empty filled with lively lunchtime clamour. Groups of friends clustered together and opened their lunchboxes, then began pecking at one another's side dishes. Of course, our club members were no exception to that. Alright, lunchtime. Come on, Raina, bring your desk over. I quietly tucked away my textbooks and notebooks, then turned my desk around. Raina had already pulled out her massive lunchbox, and I was ready and waiting for the signal to move her desk into position. Oh, it's a huge lunchbox today, Raina. It was an unthinkable amount for a single person. Of course, we knew from the start that it wasn't just for her, so we all bustled and surrounded her lunchbox. I made this lunch today hoping everyone would eat it. Today's lunch is the Raina Meatball Special. Raina popped her lid open with a huge smile on her face as she said that. I just had a thought. It's a bad thing to think about when I already feel queasy. One of my favourite winter dishes is this pasta bake with meatballs and 3 different kinds of cheese, mozzarella, cheddar and parmesan. And it takes like an hour and a half to cook because you basically slow cook it. It's really good. It's so rich. Like, I always forget how rich it is. But it is also really, really good. The problem is, if I eat it, I'm basically incapacitated the next day. Which is why it's a bad thing to think about, but you make it with meatballs, which is why I thought of it. Raina popped the lid open with a huge smile on her face as she said that. I got something stuck in my throat. Probably some orange juice bits, knowing me. Oh! What an appetizing colour, lustre and aroma. The huge mound of meatballs was carefully stacked and neatly decorated to match the surrounding vegetables. Gross. How is it? How is it? I worked really hard last night to prepare these, and I think I made something really cute. I was having so much fun that I ended up making a little too much. No, not just a little. It'd be more appropriate to call it a heaping mound of meatballs. Still, even someone with the appetite of a ferocious demon would be powerless before a portion this size. But with my hungry heart, I could kill this in seconds. Leave it to me, Raina. I'll happily accept all your hard work. Don't need it all. This is for everyone to share. Yeah, it's not right to keep it all to yourself, Keiichi. Article 9 of the club rules states that an equal playing field is the principal element of competition. Hey, I've been wondering this for a while now, but just how many rules are there? Why don't you show me the list? Mion brushed off with a laugh. She probably came up with them on the spur of the moment and had nearly forgotten one, and I was sure there were plenty of duplicate rules. Hey, Mion, are you going to eat some too? I'm feeling really confident today. Oh, alright then. If you're that confident, then this old man will have to try some. Come on, Satoko, move your desk over. Oh, terribly sorry, but meatballs are a favourite of mine as well. Prepare yourself, Keiichi. I won't allow you to take a single bite. What are you blabbering about? I made a sideways glance at Satoko, who didn't even have her chopsticks out yet, and charged ahead, grabbing a meatball smothered in plenty of sauce. Come on, Satoko. The key is to make the first move. Miss Chair is walking around stark naked. What? By the time I realised what had happened, it was too late. Satoko had already intercepted the meatball at the end of my chopsticks. Damn it. Damn you, Satoko. You struck the moment I bore my heart. You mustn't let your guard down. The very first meatball is always the most delicious. Satoko, you snake. Telling lies is the first step down the path of thievery. Seems to me like she got the better of you, Keiichi, and now you're making a fool of yourself. Keiichi, you're such a boy. What else could I do? Right. The truly filthy heart of a man. I get it. Keep your filth away from me. Hey, wait a minute. Don't glare at me like that. Now then, I'll make my move and enjoy these meatballs while Keiichi is taking damage. What did you say? Anyway, thank you for the food. Sorry, hold it right there. I can't let you do that, Satoko. A hand grabbed Satoko by the collar as she tried to rush towards the mountain of meatballs. When Satoko looked back, startled, she found Shion standing behind her with a smile on her face. Shion? You're here today too? Didn't I tell you? Satoko, for the time being, I'm going to have to supervise your eating habits. Now look here. She unraised the heavy box she was carrying as she said that. The moment Satoko noticed that, she carefully started edging back towards the wall. Huh? Oh, wait, is that? Evidently, Satoko hasn't been eating enough vegetables these days. And says, oh, I prepared a special squash lunchbox. I can absolutely understand Satoko's aversion to squash. I don't think I've had it raw, but it's one of those vegetables that when it's cooked, it gets so mushy and gross that I can't stand it. There's a lot that are like that. Basically, it's safe to say that anything one would put in a tray of roast vegetables is something that I cannot stand. Sorry for the click there, it's me turning my fan on because I was abruptly like, man, I am hotter than I thought I was. Both in the literal and figurative sense. Wow, Shion's up to her normal tolerance. As I said that, for the first time it felt like Shion was an angel of justice for delivering punishment on Satoko rather than me. And I guess God really does exist. Lord have mercy on me. Come on, Satoko. I've got your lunch right here. Meanwhile, Satoko was shaking and crying out, blue in the face with tears in her eyes. I hate squash. Look, you can't hate squash. Squash is very nutritious and good for you. You're still growing, Satoko, so you have to be especially mindful of your nutrition, okay? I've made a resolution. As long as I live, I won't allow you to eat an unhealthy diet. Shion talking sense. How unusual. That's a terrible thing to say, sis. Alright, everyone, help yourselves. After all, there's nothing more sweet or delicious than nice, crunchy squash. Wow. If you heard noise there, it was me wrangling my second monitor, which continues not to work, although it works more, knock on wood, than it did last week, or earlier this week even. When she unheld out the heavy box and opened the lid, you took a piece one by one and tossed them into our mouths. It's actually pretty good. It really is. Soaking it in dashi gives it a nice flavour. Sweet and extra delicious. Mion and Reina both smacked their lips together. It wasn't simply boiled and mashed squashed, but pickled and dashi. I couldn't even put this taste and texture into words. I have complicated feelings about dashi because I'm sure it's delicious. It's just that my hatred of seaweed as an object means that the idea of eating it just makes me feel... Even like crisp seaweed that you have on like sushi rolls. There's just something about the idea of it that I can't stand. It's part of the reason that I don't tend to eat mushrooms. Like, I don't like them, they tend to be very squishy, but I also hate the existence of mushrooms as an object, so like, no can do. You've really done it, Shion. The first time you brought squash, it was so hard and undercooked, even I pitied anyone eating it. But to have come this far, this is awesome. The sweetness of the squash is absolutely exquisite. Satoko, don't bother eating any, it would be wasted on you. What did you say? I may not like squash, but I don't like the way you said that. Come on, try some. Just try a bite. It was clear provocation, but Satoko didn't budge. She furrowed her eyebrows while mentally preparing herself. You see? Isn't it tasty? Well, it's not inedible. Satoko craned her head in surprise, as if considering whether or not to have another. As soon as she witnessed that, Shion smiled and went goo while making a victory pose. But as soon as she made eye contact with me, she awkwardly coughed and her face warped into a cynical smile. So, how is it? Have you reconsidered your opinion? Well, if it tastes like this, then maybe just a little more would be okay. True, her initial squash was pretty intense. That was a great deal of progress in a short period of time. Naturally, I've been studying day and night to help Satoko overcome her hatred of squash. Now then, at this pace we should be able to conquer eggplant, bell peppers and asparagus by the end of the year. Of those, asparagus is my dad used to call it asparagus, is the only one that I like. I've never had eggplant raw, I don't like it cooked, again it's too squishy. Bell peppers are disgusting, I cannot stand them in any way, shape or form. They are vile. If you put bell peppers into something, the flavour, for me, overpowers every other flavour and makes it inedible. I have strong opinions on vegetables, and I don't tend to eat many of them, which is bad for my health, but whatever. Satoko choked out a cough. Shion turned towards her in an unnatural manner and offered a glass of tea with a devilish smile on her face. Alright, as long as you got it together, there's still a mountain of squash over here. Don't even joke about that. Do I really have to endure all this hardship? Hardship, you say? Didn't Coach tell you something about that? If things get painful? So, Satoko, everything will be fine as long as you insert. Wouldn't that there's Coach's logic there? I've always thought he was a good person ever since I saw him helping out the baseball team, but now I'm really starting to wonder if it's alright to rely on him. Me too. Oh, Maid Satoko, I want to take her home with me. And here she comes now. Which means, Satoko, as long as you can get into you can take on any challenge. What is this? Never in my life have I seen, heard, or eaten anything that absurd. Don't think about it. Just feel it. Shion, how long have you been acting on these aspirations to reunite her? Since about a year ago? Shion immediately switched back to normal. How she's able to do that is something the world may never know. Did something burst inside her head? Anyway, don't you go to another school, Shion? What are you even doing here at this hour? Sort out your own misbehaviour before you start telling others what to do. Sensing an escape route, Satoko retorted with her best argument. But of course, that line of reasoning was ineffective against an outlaw like Shion. She brushed it off with a scornful laugh and a shrug of her shoulders. But, Shion, this makes it 3 weeks in a row, doesn't it? I don't think the Okonomiya school will keep quiet about this. Is it really okay to be here? Yeah, it's fine. The attendance records will be adjusted accordingly. Did you just say you're adjusting attendance records? Emiya School is partly an obstacle with the power of the Sonozaki family name. That's completely illegal. Shion had a calm look on her face as she said something so dreadful. Indeed, that'd be a piece of cake with the power of the Sonozakis. More importantly, this is Shion. She probably had already prepared a huge volume of blackmail against a teacher or even the principal. No doubt about it, she's a frightening person to make an enemy of. So, Satoko's concern is really no problem at all? Don't worry about me. Then I'm going to transfer to the Okonomiya school. That would be even more convenient. My driver could pick you up and drop you off, you know? Huh? How about it? Let's go to my school. Together. Your jokes are totally inappropriate. Just not making any progress at all. All of Satoko's objections were immediately bounced back at her, so she began to run away, half in tears. But Shion quickly cut off the escape route and chased her into the corner of the classroom. It was really lively today. Indeed, this was starting to turn into a regular occurrence. Nowadays, the students have been betting anime and baseball cards amongst each other about how long it takes Shion to catch Satoko. In fact, Mion went up to the blackboard where the younger students were gathered and quickly jotted down a table of odds, like a professional bookie. Okay, listen up. Under 3 minutes is 3 to 1 odds. 10 minutes is 5 to 1. If she successfully escapes, it's 500 to 1. Hand in your cards right away, got it? Taking charge even here, huh, Mion? As she said that, Satoko had been pushed with her back against her locker, unable to move to her left, right, or backwards. She'd been chased into checkmate position. Shion was an opponent even beyond Mion. Even for someone like Satoko, she couldn't get a proper footing. Oh, ow, ow, ow. Give it up, Satoko. You're outmatched. Shion, it's time to forgive her. Not happening. It's my job to take care of her health. Satoshi's orders. Can't let her be picky. Well, I do think that level of responsibility deserves praise, but did Satoshi really ask you to go that far? I violently shook my head to chase off the thought, while an image of Satoko's older brother, who I'd never even met before, floated to mind. But these days, Shion really does seem like Satoko's sister. In that case, I'll offer to trade. I have no need for one. The way he'll do anything to accomplish your goals really makes you feel like Mion's sister. Raina, did you intend that to sound like praise? Mion looks disgusted. What's the matter, Mion? Did I say something weird? Did I? There's no point in getting mad at someone who doesn't even realise what she's done. Besides, I'm not as high-handed as her. It's embarrassing to be lumped with her. True, Sis is heading straight down the path to becoming a loser. Who are you calling a loser, huh? Well, to put it more into your words, Sis, might is right. You're carrying an infinite supply of trump cards, it makes perfect sense to use them. Am I wrong? That statement got an immediate reaction. From Mion and from one other person. Huh? So you stand by what you said just now? Huh? That's right. What's that supposed to mean? And that's how it is, Satoko. Shion turned back from Mion's boisterous laughter to face Satoko. Then, with her face still looking down, Satoko plunged her hand back into the locker and pulled something out. Shion, what was it you just said? You're carrying a trump card, it makes perfect sense to use it? Satoko? Then, what do you think of this? Then, with a look that suggested her earlier half-crime was all an act, Satoko held out a hand to display it right before Shion's eyes. Eek. The moment Shion recognized what it was, the smile immediately vanished from her face. Yes, the thing Shion was so afraid of was a can with genuine beef curry printed on the side. Satoko? Oh, my, how the turntables. Satoko let out a huge laugh as she declared her plan a success. If things go like usual, even if Satoko manages to escape, Shin will still catch her shortly thereafter, forcing her to eat vegetables while screaming and crying. But today she coaxed Shion to follow her towards the lockers, making Shion think her movement options were limited. All for this? Now then, you mentioned earlier that you shouldn't be picky, right? If so, Shion, please have some of this canned curry. If you can do that, then I'll try the eggplant, the bell peppers, and even the asparagus. Come on. It was a totally one-of-a-kind scene. Satoko had finally regained her composure, and once she pulled up the pull tab, the normally high-handed Shion took one step back after another, overwhelmed. What's more, it's a flavour of curry that nearly everyone in the class loves. What's wrong, Shion? Do you hate curry? I guess you don't know, Reina. Shion totally hates canned food. As soon as Shion heard that, she recoiled back and shouted, Eek! Sis, you told Satoko? I'll deal with the club rules. Anything is permitted in the pursuit of victory. Sis, what did I do to deserve this? I do have more complaints than there are stars in the sky. But the truth is, I just thought it'd be fun. That's right. This is Mion we're talking about. She's totally the kind of person to do this. Plus, I bet on the Satoko escapes outcome. Sorry. Mion, that sounds like insider trading. It's not a problem. This is all within reasonable expectation. Mion kept her cool, even as Reina thrust accusations at her. Oh, remember this moment well. Always save your trump cards for the final moment. Go get her, Satoko. Seize your first victory. Come on, eat it, Shion. It's not good to be picky. Come on. Come on. This is about nutrition. I'm not going to eat the junk food in that can. Oh, you idiot. You really said it, huh? Huh? The moment the doors vigorously swung open, I could see the person standing on the other side. Every single person, no, all except one, immediately began to pray. Yes, begging forgiveness for the poor lamb who committed blasphemy before God. You are Miss Shion Sonozaki? Yeah, that's right, but... Slowly, and without making a sound. No, in fact, quite the opposite. In the blink of an eye, Miss Chie moved within half centimetre of Shion's face and shot a piercing glare straight into her eyes, with ectoplasm dribbling from her lips. Weird. It was far too much for Shion to bear, so she began to inch backwards, but Miss Chie then grabbed her by the head and wouldn't let go. You look so much alike. You and Mion. But I have to wonder if your personality and way of thinking are really so similar. Having said that, Miss Chion's neck squeaked as she slowly and deliberately turned her head towards Mion, like something out of The Exorcist. Even though Mion had done nothing herself worthy of blame, as soon as their eyes met, she stood up completely straight and vigorously shook her head side to side, sweating out a waterfall. That's not true. We're not. We're completely different. We're total opposites, like water and oil. A dangerous combination, like hydrogen and oxygen. If you eat it, you'll die. I see. And then Miss Chie flashed a broad smile. A smile cold enough to freeze an active volcano, and turned back towards Shion. The one person who didn't know that this Lord of Terror was finally beginning to sense the impending mortal peril. Her face went pale and she began making excuses. Today is the anniversary of the Okonomiya School's founding. That's why I'm here. I'd never skip school. Anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to ask the Okonomiya School principal. They'll tell you that Shion visits the school through very legal channels. Shion was desperately tossing out excuses. When I saw that, I was honestly impressed, because even in the face of Miss Chie's Medusa smile, her mouth could still move. Absolutely terrifying. So today I was, that doesn't really matter. Huh? Even if it's a different school, the result is the same. Whether it's a transfer student from an American high school, or a prototype-made robot developed at some research institute, I'd accept anyone that comes here. It's actually no problem at all. Welcome. Miss Chie's words were warm and open-minded, and with that, the temperature inside the classroom was slowly beginning to fall. But nobody wanted to say anything about that. It was best left unsaid. Is that so? That's great. However, just a moment ago, I heard something that sounded like your voice, but I couldn't make it out. Something about curry? I forgot what I said. Perhaps it was just my imagination. Try to remember once more and speak clearly so I can hear every single word. Don't lie to me. Come now, go ahead. By the way, there's a strict punishment waiting for liars. Please, follow the example of Washington chomping down the cherry tree and answer me honestly. Answer honestly? That is what I'd like. Although if you answer too honestly, you may end up committing spooku like Team Master Sen no Ryukyu. So please, be cautious and take it into consideration. She's in trouble either way. Please, teacher, please calm down. I am calm. I feel completely cool and clear at the moment. Rest assured. Teacher, cool is not the word for it. More like cold or freezing. The entire class stood petrified before this horrifying sight. Even Mion and Satoko was afraid of springing an unexpected trap. This is bad. If things keep up like this, Shion's in real danger. So I offer Shion advice. Save. May have messed up there, but whatever. Fortunately, Miss Chie was facing away from me. Did I have a look? Shoot. Oh well. As soon as I noticed that, I quickly pulled a notebook out of my closet, my desk, wrote down a message and held it up towards Shion. It said, just say it's good. Curry is an excellent food product, made from the wisdom of human culture. Shion thought hard about it and finally uttered that phrase. Indeed, it's one of the greatest inventions since the dawn of the human race. Then, let's hear what else you have to say about curry. Go on now. So is it curry rice? Or large like you asked? The whole class was dumbfounded by the unusual answer, looking totally flat-footed. However, sensing some kind of kinship in a fellow curry lover, Miss Chie's mood slowly began to improve and the tense atmosphere began to dissipate. Very well. It was just my imagination. Alright everyone, enjoy your lunch. Having said that, Miss Chie smiled and then made her way out of the classroom. The next moment, Shion was released from her hellish shackles and helplessly slumped to the floor. You were right, Shion? That took a quarter century of my lifespan. As exaggerated as that line was, I could barely hear her say it. If this were a comic, her hair would have turned white by now. Seriously, please think carefully before saying something like that. I wonder what will happen next time. And who started this? Who? If you come any closer or use this... Satoko quickly reached out to where she'd left the can of food, But once her hand came up empty, she turned back. Sure enough, right there. Is this what you're looking for? The smile on her lips, but a look in her eyes that clearly wasn't smiling at all. Shion held up the can that she'd grabbed long ago. Looking more closely, her forehead was covered in deep wrinkles and oily sweat. Did she really hate canned food that much? Now, let's get rid of this. Shion tossed the can out the window. You can't just throw the can away. That's true. But if you're willing to go that far, I have to get serious too. I wanted to think so. Prepare yourself, Satoko. She's going to die. She's definitely going to get killed. Flabbergasted by that display of raw power, Satoko bounded away at lightning speed. However, Tomita, Okamura, on it. When Shion signaled, Tomita and Okamura both jumped to their feet at the same time and stood in front of the entrance to the classroom. Tomita, Okamura? Sorry, Hojo. It's nothing personal. Please forgive us. Why? When Satoko looked back in panic, Shion was standing a few steps behind, waving a colourful piece of paper near her face. With large, distinctive text written on the paper, oh, it says, dessert first, or you can eat ticket. Allow me to revisit an earlier topic. Always save your trump cards for the final moment. Oh. Elapsed time, 18 minutes. Satoko Hojo resigns. As it turns out, the betting pool ended without a winner. Even though I had total control as the bookie. Mion dejectedly returned to her seat and began shoveling meatballs into her mouth. Mion... Demon. She's a demon. Even though there was still a smile on Reina's face, she wore a complex expression that also looked disgusted. Mion, don't you think that was a bit much? It's fine, it's fine. Stoker's a club member. She has to be capable of enduring this sort of trial. And as for Shion, something even more outrageous would have been perfectly acceptable. Sis, I pray you receive your divine punishment someday. Shion flashed a resentful glare while passing Satoko a napkin. Since Satoko was on the verge of tears just a moment ago, Reina offered her a meatball out of respect for her fiery passion and to say sorry about the squash lunch fiasco. There was a content smile on her face as she rubbed her stomach. Well, somehow, I think they're a good combo. It was a surprising thing to say, but nobody would doubt that they're actually sisters. It's always so lively when Shion shows up. It'd be nice if you officially transferred here. I really want to, but Granny would never allow it. Inexcusable. Coming here once in a while isn't such a big deal, but every hour of every day? My body can't hold out any longer. That's asparagus now for tomorrow's lunch. Served raw, of course. Topped with just mayonnaise. Okay, now that is gross. Asparagus should be lightly cooked. Seared asparagus is nice. Just warmed up. Reina, Shion is bullying me. Oh, Satoko's crying face is so cute. It's alright, Reina will. Oh my, I just happen to have these tickets here. The invitations to the dessert fest. You need to listen to what your sister has to say, alright? Whoa, that was a fast change of heart. And she already has the tickets in hand? Wow, has Shion already figured out how to tame Reina? How cowardly. Buying people's favour by leveraging their interests. This yappy dog voice feels really nice. Shion, that's brutal. Rika, come on, say something here. Indeed, it was a lively, bustling lunch break. And on top of that, we had fun playing and competing seriously in our club activities. Normally, there'd be one more slightly meek person here with us, but for the past week, she wasn't here. When I first transferred here, she was always hanging out with Satoko and teasing me, but at the same time, she always seemed worried about something. Maybe that's why. One day, she put up a wall and distanced herself from us. Could I have done something to upset her? I considered that, but when I asked Mion, she said it probably wasn't the case. Besides, I'm not the only one she's been avoiding. Mion, Reina, and even her housemate, Satoko. Seriously, though, I wonder what's wrong with her. Well, they say that colds this year are particularly bad. It's really easy to overexert yourself. Mion said, but everyone already knew. The reason Rika isn't feeling well is because she has some kind of problem. And as much as I'd like to lend her my strength, I can't do it without knowing the true nature of the troubles. So, where is Rika now? Well, her bag is still here, so I don't think she went home. Oh, Satoko sat. When she noticed Satoko sulking right next to her, she tried to call out to her. But Satoko quickly raised her head with a cheerful smile on her face to shake off the hard feelings and spoke up. Anyway, there's nothing to worry about. We had a proper dinner together last night, so I'm sure her cold will get better soon. Satoko, I see. Satoko says so, then there's no doubt about it. Alright, let's all celebrate together once her cold clears up. Right? And when that time comes, Raina's gonna squeeze her with all her strength. Alright then, this old man is gonna prepare a delicious treat. Oh, Mitten's glorious cuisine. Of course, Satoko can't have any. It's all for me. Keiichi, you'll do nothing of the sort. I've been tempted by your experiences with the wicked Shino. Do you truly believe I'll heal so easily? Who are you calling wicked? Direct blow to the head is foul play. A rambunctious lunch break was filled with levity. Rika, I don't know what's bothering you, but I'll be waiting until you decide to let me know. That's sad. I guess lunch will be over soon. I awoke inside the nurse's office and muttered that to myself as I looked up at the clock on the wall. I was a bit disappointed by how little time had passed. Before now, I'd always been flustered by the rapid flow of time, and I constantly felt weary of falling behind, but this time it was different. There was a faint odour of disinfectant solution inside the white room, giving it a somewhat cold atmosphere. Some people would say they dislike the atmosphere, but I've been a research subject since my early childhood, so maybe I've gotten used to it. It's actually rather calming. I have the same thing. The smell of disinfectant cleaner fluid that you get at tattoo places or at tattoo or piercing parlors is quite, I wouldn't say it's a nice smell, but it always has positive associations for me. Like when you first step into a place and they have that really sharp disinfectant smell and you're like, nice. It's actually rather calming. My back and neck ached a little. I must have slept in an odd position. Just 20 days left. Gazing at the calendar on the wall, that was how long I had until the day of destiny. I travelled a month back. Why so much longer than last time? I still don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. It's impossible to understand. Still, I've been living in this misery, idly wasting my time for the past 10 days. I have to make a move. I understand that. I have to think things through. I understand that as well. If things remain as they are, that witch will get her hands on me and things will end in the worst possible. Still, I realise that, but... I squeezed at the comforter. The freshly laundered sheet cover quickly crumpled and soaked in the sweat from my palms. But still, I had no answer for that. And the one person who would always reach out for me when I was feeling this troubled wasn't here. When that happened, first and foremost, I felt abject dread and indescribable loneliness. It was so unnatural. But despite that, I'm still surrounded by my lively, noisy friends. Anytime I walk around in Hinamizawa and Oknomiya, all of the villagers who will clap their hands together in praise and treat me kindly. It's true I have no immediate family, but I never had any reason to feel alone. Nevertheless, even after living for hundreds or even thousands of years, this was the very first time I felt truly alone. And though that pain stabbed at the depths of my heart, I was the one closing myself off from others, like I was running away. Hanyuu. I suddenly spoke her name. Maybe she'll answer me. I was just playing around and trying to surprise you, Rika. Suddenly appearing next to me and uttering some nonsense like that. No, maybe she was planning to do that, but lost her chance thanks to some sort of trouble and she can't come out because she's afraid of making me angry. I couldn't completely disregard that sort of explanation, but whenever I recognised my own weakness, I added to my self-loathing. It was a vicious cycle. Excuse me. Oh, Rika, you're already up. The person who came barging into the room without waiting for a reply was Shion. She had a heavy box in hand, probably my lunchbox. How are you feeling? Your complexion seems to have improved a bit. Sorry. Hoodie on my desk chair, slipping down and getting tangled up in the wheels. My head and body still feel sluggish. This is the season for heat fatigue after all. Rika, I'll leave your lunch here. It's a fruit salad with apples and other things good for digestion. Thank you, Nipa. When I smiled, Shion smiled back. Strange. Since when was Shion such a caring person? Though I still felt my suspicions, Shion sat the heavy box on the desk and stopped beside me to put a hand on my forehead. It was cold, but it felt soft and comforting. Seems like you're not running a fever. I think I'll prepare another dinner for you today. Would that be alright? Please, don't worry about me. If you don't come over, I'll be able to eat Satoko's unique style of rice. It's only a little awful. I'm sure Satoko would be upset to hear that. Of course, that's our little secret. If you tell anyone, Oyashiro-sama's curse will come for you. Oh, how scary. If the shrine maiden Rika says so, it must be true. Shion looked especially surprised, but her eyes were still smiling. I was planning to keep joking around, but right now I just felt a little unpleasant. No, that's not it. It was a little different. I realised why I felt so unpleasant. I'd mentioned the name of Oyashiro-sama, the one who is no longer by my side. I myself emphasised that point. What am I thinking? Of course Shion had no reason to feel any of that. At best she'd recognise me as the village mascot, revered as the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama. Shion had been isolated from Hinamizawa for a long time, and up until now she had realistic views on the curse, even a bit of scepticism, with one particular exception though. Alright, I should head back. What about you, Rika? I called in a car, so if you're planning to leave early we could ride together. I'm starting to feel a little better after getting some rest. I'll do my best to eat lunch and head back to class afterwards. Is that so? Try not to overdo it, okay? I'll see you later. Oh, Yes? Just as Shion tried to make her way out with a smile on her face, I called out to stop her. When she turned and looked back, I started to feel a hint of regret, but I resolved myself to speak up anyway. How long have you been this close with Satoko? Huh? Sure enough, Shion absentmindedly straight ahead with her eyes open. After all, it was a pretty unusual question. I was starting to feel more and more regret for asking, but it was already too late. You're oddly close friends. Shion, I'm sure you're well aware of the rocky relationship between the Sonozaki and Hojo families. Haha, sounds like something Sis would say. Meep. Come to think of it, that's true. What am I even asking? Perhaps sensing my confusion, Shion looked at me and grinned. Is it really so strange for Satoko and I to get along? Could it be that you're jealous, Rika? Do you think I'm taking her away from you? Satoko is my adorable playmate. I won't let you take her. Nipa. Seems a love triangle has formed around Satoko. Suppose we've already painted targets on our backs. No, that wasn't what I was getting at. At any rate, I was glad the conversation had veered in another direction. Besides, he entrusted it to me, taking care of Satoko. By Satoshi? Shion opened her eyes a little wider in surprise. I thought it was a mistake to mention his name, but Shion quickly shrugged her shoulders and flashed a playful smile. Well, of course. Things got really complicated right after his incident. I started to wonder if Satoko was one of the factors responsible for his disappearance. There were times in the past I felt resentful, no doubt about that. I already know about all that. When I followed you, it warped into intense, murderous rage against the Sonozaki family, and against Satoko. I didn't believe Satoshi would come back. I didn't believe Satoshi was alive. I didn't think he was alive, so I thought he was dead. I believed in his death. I killed him inside myself. Odd way to put it, but whatever. Nobody else did. I did that. But Satoko believed until the very end, and she was rewarded in her final moments. Satoko wasn't here anymore, but I'm still here. Satoshi was waiting for both Satoko and me. But to be reunited with Satoshi, we had to keep our promises. Satoko's promise was to be strong. Satoko kept that promise until the bitter end. and Satoshi embraced her. My promise was to take care of Satoko for Satoshi. I never kept the promise from the beginning. Therefore, Satoshi will never embrace me. Even if I were to rub Satoko's wounds and ask her if they hurt, that wouldn't mean anything. That was when I felt something behind me. It wasn't Satoshi or the thing that scared me before. I didn't know who it was, but it was right there, criticizing me for my mistakes. Then I finally realized it. The thing is me. I'd always been there, standing behind myself and watching me break that promise. Satoshi asked me to take care of Satoko, yet I didn't keep that promise. I've been watching it happen. I cried and gave up on myself. Wait, Satoshi gave up on me and I gave up on myself? What'll happen to me now? Please don't leave me. If I give up on myself, what will happen to my body? It'll be alright as long as... So lead on. To protect. She? Oh, sorry. Anyway, after that baseball game a little while back, Satoko was having a chat with Keiichi, and he was lightly teasing her while asking a question. When Satoshi comes back, what's the first thing you're going to do? How do you think she answered that? Well, I'll tell him I'm sorry. She had a completely serious look on her face as she said that. She said Satoshi left because she kept on acting like a baby, so she wanted to apologise right away, and then show him how much stronger she'd become. She completely understands her sin. Shion smiled and shook her head as she said that. There wasn't even a speck of the intense hostility towards Satoko I'd witnessed in the past. Satoko was doing her best to become stronger, and by keeping her promise, she's achieved atonement. When Satoshi comes back, she won't be a burden on him any longer. That's what I believe. As long as she keeps her promise, he'll come back one day. Shion. Satoko and I are actually in the same position, so I'm doing my best to keep my promise and look after her. I was finally able to see it that way. Even if it's hard to believe, you have to keep on believing. I feel like someone once said that. You can't reciprocate their trust, you're not even qualified to believe in miracles. I'm not even qualified, huh? That simple utterance had a terribly heavy weight to it. Shion smiled and scratched her head as though she sensed something odd in my reaction. Anyway, it's not out of character. I'm acting like an older sister. Well, Satoko's interactions these days are like small animals. She may still have some issues, but I think she's gotten pretty cute. Is Shion the sort of person to say that? Still, I'm sure it'll happen. If you and Satoko wish hard enough, it'll come true. Is that a declaration made as the Shrine Maiden of Oyashiro-sama? This has nothing to do with Oyashiro-sama, but if it ever becomes necessary, I'll ask Oyashiro-sama for help. Thanks for that, but I'm not turning to gods for help. I'll do my best on my own. Anyway, later. My hand has gone to sleep. Very pins and needles. Weird. After that last jab, Shion waved her hand and left the nurse's office. Such a frank attitude, but only these days did I finally understand. Shion was always quite frank with her true intentions. If you can't reciprocate their trust, you're not even qualified to believe in miracles, huh? For a while, I just sat in the bed staring out the window while thinking over that conversation with Shion. I heard the delightful sound of bells ringing off in the distance. Afternoon class must be getting started. Now then, in accordance with club regulations, I'd like to pose a question to all club members. The moment class ended, Mion turned her desk towards us like usual and began shouting in our direction. Our club activities have become famous, not just in Hinamizawa, but Okonomiya as well. Famous? You mean infamous? Keiichi. Therefore, the scope of our activities will grow forward, and in accordance with that, we'll need to increase our strength to battle a wide variety of foes. To that end, you ignoring me? So in short, you're talking about adding new club members. Hey, Reina, don't go stealing the most advertising lines. Was she trying to say that like some kind of propaganda speech? Just speak clearly, don't waste our time. Increasing the size of the club does sound interesting. Whether it's a baseball game or something else, the fun will spread even further. Reina has no objections. Oh, no matter who joins, I can't imagine anyone will be a match for me. I agree with Satoko. The three of them, including Rika who came back after lunchtime, all agreed to Mion's proposition, and I of course welcomed it. It's all well and good, but who are we going to add? No matter how much we wanted to recruit new members, we get nowhere if nobody applied. Plus, even if they wanted to join the club, they'd get nowhere with the skill. I'm sorry for yawning. I fucked up my med schedule, which meant that my energy level has been all over the place. And then I went grocery shopping in 24°C weather, which is too warm for me. And I've been knocked out ever since then. But I'm going to keep going. I believe in me. Tomita? Or maybe Okamura? I'll only allow those two to join if they demonstrate the indomitable will that's necessary to participate. Still resentful about their betrayal in the earlier exchange with Shion, Satoko crossed her arms and stared daggers at Tomita and Okamura. When their eyes met, they shivered and held their hands together. Indeed, even if they did want to join the club, the entrance criteria would be strict, especially from Satoko. You all don't get it. They're right before your eyes. Huh? Right before our eyes? We all looked around the classroom in response to Mion's declaration, but the entire class was still in the room, so I couldn't tell who she was referring to. Everyone is still here? Isn't that a little unusual? Usually most of the class is ready to head home shortly after school lets out. But they were all still here, expectantly looking in our direction? No way. Yes, precisely. The new candidates for our club are the entire class. Please, let us join. Following Mion's lead, everyone in the class all around us began shouting their appeal. Amazing. Every single one of them has acknowledged our club activities. Reina and Satoko were stunned by their enormous magnitude. Of course, the same could be said about me. With this many people, we could put together an American football team. Wait, isn't that horribly physically demanding? Could be worse, could be rugby. Rugby players don't wear armour. But the scale of this really is impressive. Of course it's okay. So in recognition of the newcomers, the moment I tried to answer. However, the club has hard and fast rules. Those who wish to join must first conquer a strict entrance exam. Huh? Mion? You were all surprised. Since when was that a rule? No, I'm certain she just came up with that on the spot. Now, do you all have the courage and will to overcome this trial? Yes. Everyone in the class had huge smiles and pleasant feelings as they gave an immediate answer. Once Mion saw that, she gave a satisfied nod and then made a proclamation. Then the test for all new members will be conducted tomorrow, and the game will be Kick the Can. The name for this next chapter is The Rival Club Members. I'm extremely really tired, so. One day I'll have energy, but today is not that day. And the next day, the last class of the afternoon was PE, so we changed into our gym clothes and went out into the schoolyard. Our underclassmen had all rushed out there and were waiting with their heads turned this way. Kept you waiting, huh? I tried calling out to them, casually, but halfway into it I stopped and held up a hand. They were all looking at us with tense, spirited looks rather than their usual smiles. Looking forward to it. They turned to us and shouted with booming voices. For a moment I felt overwhelmed by the pressure. Right, I shouted back at them without missing a beat. The younger students successfully conveyed their tremendous spirit, and I was thrilled that they were so passionate about becoming our comrades. Looks like everyone's fired up. Looking forward to it. They look really close. I'll have to work even harder than usual. Then, Reina and Mion came out into the schoolyard with huge smiles on their faces after witnessing the passion of our underclassmen. There was no levity in their eyes. They were like raptors stalking their prey as they sized up the adversaries before them. Indeed, the game has already begun. Oh, the stronger the opponent, the greater the value in their defeat. Oh, John, how much longer will you be saying that? What now? Since when did Shion's trained lackeys have such big mouths? Your undefeated reign ends today. Tomita and Okamura wasted no time before provoking her. Rather than answering to Stoko's cynicism, they were flexing and patting their arms. An impressive display. If they join our group, they'll become an unstoppable force with the proper training. I am hitting all the wrong buttons like a fool. Okay. Keiichi, isn't it a little early for that? Whether they'll be able to join or not will be determined today. Rena casually hammered a nail straight into my thoughts. Well, I suppose that's true. But regardless of who makes the cut, I'm excited by the prospect of new members. Although, if they don't live up to strict expectations, possible there won't be any new members at all. Precisely. Now, the time has come to see what the extent of our adversaries will be able to see to what extent our adversaries will be able to entertain us. Even though this was just an entrance exam, the three of them were absolutely unforgiving. I understand how they feel, but isn't it unfair to suddenly demand they perform at the same level as us? Or maybe I'm getting soft. Just then, they have strong convictions, I'm sure they'll do their best. That's why it's only fair for us to fight back in earnest. Rika, the taller the mountain, the greater the joys surmounting it. So you have to fight on. Rika seemed to sense my hesitation and offered me encouragement. Hearing her say that did make the weight feel a little lighter. Indeed, that's true. Motorcycle time. Competition is only meaningful if you and your opponent both clash at full power. In fact, to come at them with half-hearted softness would be terribly insulting. Yeah, that's right. Then I'll use my full strength and give it everything I've got. I keep mentioning I'm tired. I'll try for 3 hours and may stop earlier if we come to a good cliffhanger, or I'm just like about to pass out and need to go lie down. What's wrong, Rika? Keiichi, does what you just said remind you of anything? What I just said? What do you mean by that, Rika? Sorry for the sound. Kicking my PC. It's nothing. Rika's expression seemed to cloud over for a moment, but before I had a chance to ask any further, she turned back and began walking towards Satoko without looking back. Is something wrong? Keiichi? It's nothing. I don't know what it is, but it feels like something is stirring deep in my chest. Alright then, first, the rules of engagement. Everyone, would you mind putting one of these on your back? Mion began passing out white slips to everyone as she said that. They were made of white rectangular fabric, like the sort of thing you see people wearing at an athletic meet. Rika was carrying a box of safety pins and black magic markers that she prepared in advance. Normally the rule is you have to read aloud the name of any kid you catch, but the schoolyard has high visibility, which gives the person who's it an advantage. So this time, just write your favourite number on your tag and stick it to your back. The person who's it reads your number aloud with their foot is on the can, you're out. Also, Reina carefully drew a circle with a radius of 1 metre on the ground in chalk, while Mion carefully continued her explanation. The person who touches you while touching the can, you're also out. However, the person who's it can only enter the white circle for 5 seconds. I see. Then I'm only allowed to call out numbers while I'm in there? In that case... Oh, Rika. Sorry, but could I ask you to be the referee? Referee? Rika still in the middle of passing out safety pins and markers to the younger students when she suddenly looked up at me. Right. Rika will determine whether or not the person who's it read the proper number. Everyone, follow Rika's orders. As long as we do that, there shouldn't be any complaints, okay? Roger that. That's a good choice, because I'm still not feeling completely well. Now that she mentions it, her complexion does look a little pale. Is that really alright, Rika? If I'm just watching, it'll be fine. Stuka, you'll just have to fight on in my place. Were I to fight hard enough to feel Ricochet, no human in the galaxy would be a match for me. Sorry. Second thing. Sorry. Distracted. Stuka let out a boisterous, energetic laugh as she said that. Rika clapped her hands together when she saw that. The strongest combination in the universe. If we tag-teamed, our power would be an unparalleled explosion of energy. I don't quite understand the meaning of that, but Regardless, that's some impressive self-confidence. Now then, let's talk about entry requirements. Club members are all in, so any candidate who manages to kick the can without being caught will be declared a winner. The time limit is on until the end of PE. Got it? Yep. See, so the qualification for entry in our club is to successfully break through our defences? If that's the case, I'm glad to welcome any of the winners amongst our ranks. By the way, hugging and grabbing people are considered valid forms of interference, but punching and kicking are strictly forbidden. Sounds good, Raina? Oh, why is Raina the only one being called out by name? Raina became sullen. But if she was able to use her punches freely, everyone would be KO'd, and the game would end before we could even read any numbers out. But that's a pretty strong handicap. It may make this pretty hard. Peachy, is that all it takes to make you flinch? For our club members, that sort of handicap is hardly a challenge. Don't be ridiculous. You think I'd give up and hand them victory just because of that, Neon? That's the spirit. Let everyone know the passion and strength of our club, right down to the marrow of our bones. Yeah. Then, after confirming that all the club members were prepared to be it, and confirming that all the younger students had properly affixed their numbers to their clothes with safety pins, Mion shouted a proclamation. Alright, let the game begin. Start us up with a kickoff, Tomita. Leave it to me. Once the can has been returned here, we'll count to 100, so spread out. Now, commence the battle. On Mion's command, Tomita ran up and kicked the empty can sitting inside the white circle. Pow! The can let out a satisfying sound as it flew through the air, and at the same time, the younger classmates cheered as they rushed away from here. It's an amazingly powerful kick. She said that, Raina immediately rushed over to where the can landed, then returned it to the white circle in a flash, and with one foot on the can, she began counting. Come to think of it, isn't that the same can of curry from yesterday? What happened to the curry? Did she throw it out? I'd never do something so wasteful. I gave it to Miss Chie and she had it for lunch. I see. Come to think of it, Miss Chie seemed to be in a better mood than usual after lunch break. But wasn't that a commercial-sized can, large enough to feed 10 people? She really is, the curry demon. Wait, am I the only one feeling slightly different about this? I guess it's fine now. 99, 100. Meanwhile, Raina finished counting and we all switched into battle mode. Raina stayed behind as the last line of defense, while Mion, Satoko and I spread out along the back line of the school building where the students would be hiding. Now, where could they be? I carefully surveyed my surroundings. Unlike in Zombie Tag, where I can get someone out just by touching them, in this game, I have to check the numbers on their backs. In order to do that, I have to push them to retreat and drive them into a position where their backs are visible. Of course, I might be able to catch them and force them to show their back, but if I just discover two people together, there's a possibility that one of them could struggle well enough to allow the other to escape and target the can. The rules in the special variant of Kick the Can demand considerable battle tactics. When I suddenly noticed a shadow and turned towards it, I found two classmates hiding inside a narrow gap. Our eyes met and then they rushed towards the can. Perhaps the plan from the beginning was to run in different directions and then rush the can, but the moment they turned their back I could see their numbers. I rushed past the two of them in an instant and slammed my foot down on the can hard enough to crush it. And then 748599. You're out. As soon as Rika raised her hand, the two I'd been pursuing knelt down to the ground. Shortly afterwards, 3 more students were driven out of the back of the school by Satoko, and they came rushing to the can at my feet. Keiichi, cool, 691-457-164. Got it. 691-574-164. Okay, thank goodness. I was 110% convinced I just misread the first one. 3 more eliminated. I recited the numbers Satoko communicated and stepped on the can. As soon as Rika saw that, she raised her hand and declared the 3 of them out. See, that's a valid tactic under these special rules. The hound it pursues a foe, and the hunter it finishes them off on the side of the can. The strategy works because multiple people are it. The hound's role is to drive them out and confirm their numbers, and the hunter can finish them off when they approach the can. In other words, cooperation is critical, and the greatest weapon we club members have at our disposal. Keiichi, they're coming. 488-294. Alright, 488-294. In accordance with the rules, I stepped out of the right circle before Rika could finish the 5-second count. Then, I went back in to step on the can and call out the numbers. Next, the classmates driven by me brushed towards the can, hoping to plan a comeback. I'm counting on you. 619-722-982. And a few minutes later... Alright, next. Is the re over? Mion counted the number of prisoners waiting near the can, and came to a halt. In the blink of an eye, all of our underclassmen were out. I thought you guys were going to give everything you got. I guess I was just mistaken. Come on, don't say that. This was just a warm-up and they still couldn't do it. Mion called out in a bewildered voice and scratched her head, right in front of our junior students. Looking at Reina and Satoko. Neither of them were sweating or out of breath. And of course, since I took on the hunter role partway through the game, the same was true for me. Hey, Mion, how about changing things up a bit to give the younger students an advantage? Don't they already have more than enough an advantage? Since we can't just call out their names. If the teams were reversed, we'd have kicked the can in no time at all. Mion mercilessly shot down my suggestion. Indeed, we probably would have sent 1 or 2 people to advance, then used that opening to launch a pincher attack. So I understand what Mion was trying to say. Right, everyone? Entry into this club is a little difficult. Mion, Okamura had been whispering something until a moment ago, and then he suddenly raised his head in response to my conversation with Mion. One more time. Please, let us try again. On that signal, the junior students who were seated on the ground all stood up at once. Everyone? Fine then. But in your current state, the result will be the same no matter how many times you try, you know? Next time will be different. Next time it will be a true contest. As he said that, Okamura picked up the can and set it in position for kickoff, and all the younger students were holding their breath and ready to run. Alright, then it's a rematch. Rika, it's all on you. Let's begin. On Rika's signal, Okamura launched the can into the air, and once again the younger students immediately ran behind the school building to hide themselves. Alright, what are they planning this time? Mion stretched her legs and grinned like she was ready and waiting. Reina returned the can to the circle and began to count up the numbers, and Satoko was standing beside, cracking her knuckles. Oh, Okamura and the others should have recognized that their usual kick-the-can strategies would not work here. Thus, next time? You got the same read on the situation, Satoko? Then it's decided. Keiichi, I'll be the hunter this time. You'll be on backup. And Reina, hiccups, I leave the rest to you. Got it. Oh. I'm not sure, but it seems like Mion and Satoko were able to predict Okamura's strategy. What kind of strategy will it be? Suddenly, I turned to the school building. I could see our underclassmen standing in the shadows on the left and right side of the school, looking this way with no attempt to hide themselves. 100. The moment Reina finished her 100 count, the junior students huddled together and watched a mass attack. I see. So you predicted this mass attack. Good intuition. However, that's still not enough. Supporting Mion's declaration, Reina charged in alone towards the mob of students. She was outnumbered, but that word had no meaning in Reina's dictionary. These little kids are trying so hard. They're so cute. I want to take them home with me. An immediate display of superhuman skill. The younger students were down on the ground in no time, and the looks on their faces made it clear that they had no idea what happened. Among them, some of the girls were being, squeezed by Reina. She rubbed her cheeks against them in her cute mode. Wasn't Reina using punches? No. I wasn't able to get a good look, but none of the fallen children appeared to be bruised, so based on that, I've determined that there were no direct blows. For the time being, Rika declared that Reina's attacks were both valid and approved. But since when could Reina use Aikido? Excellent work, Reina. As long as you're here, our foes will fold as easily as the paper that chopsticks are wrapped in. That's not all. A hidden finger is just as good at folding. As we made those comments, Tomita and the other boys quickly rose to their feet. However, Satoko used that brief opportunity to deal a final fatal blow. Mion, 474-387-199-682. Okay, 474-387-199-682. You're right. What? Tomita and the others were stunned that they were shot down the moment they tried to get up and run. Indeed, while Reina stopped them with her mass attack, Satoko snapped behind them and took aim at their defenseless backs as they tried to get up. Ah! 691, 574, 164, you're completely exposed. Then, the students who tried to avoid showing their backs to Satoko as they stood upright and pointing their backs towards Mion at the camp, so she was able to take them down easily. Meanwhile, the girls Reina was holding lost the will to resist, so Reina was able to read their numbers and get them out. It was a good plan, but how can you expect to beat Reina in a contest of force? So what now? Ready to give up? Not yet. It's not over yet. Tomita and Okamura got up again, clenching their fists. The other kids were shocked by the overwhelming difference in power, but even so, their will to join the club was strong enough to follow behind those two. That's a good attitude. Then I'll just keep crushing you until you surrender in tears. Mion. I tried to say something to keep Mion under control, but she provoked them by tapping the can in a circle with her toe. It seemed like she was trying to make the younger students look stupid. I was a little offended. Now, who's going for the next kickoff? Somehow, I started to feel uncomfortable. The Mion I've known until now was a little rough with her language and sometimes took a stance that could be misunderstood, but deep down she was really a kind-hearted, thoughtful girl. So even though we're all supposed to play aggressively in our club activities, I still think she ought to be cognizant of the position the younger students are in. But this time, it was weird. It seemed like she was bullying them just to flaunt her power. I've never seen a Mion like this before. Maybe that's actually Shion? No, I don't think that's the case. I immediately struck down that thought. Indeed, Shion did occasionally go to school disguised as Mion, but that was generally with the intention of investigating the secrets of Hinamizawa and the Sonozaki family, and given what I saw yesterday, it probably wasn't the case. Plus, this iteration of Keiichi and Reina should easily be able to recognize the difference between Mion and Shion. In which case, that girl is actually Mion? There's more and more I don't understand. There's also the subject of new club members. Normally, she would have welcomed anyone who wanted to participate without making him go through an entrance test like this. Plus, she always tried to choose games that everyone could enjoy equally, setting up an environment where beginners could easily enter. That was our class representative, Mion Sonozaki. What on earth is this word? My doubts and anxiety suddenly surfaced through that question, but there was no reply. No, the person who was always by my side would have answered that, but now all I could do was sigh in vain. It's frightening. Even though I wasn't cold, my entire body was trembling. The usual circumstances had become boring. Yes, things were like before. I was looking forward to a bit of change. Right, I was thinking that just a little while ago. When it doesn't rain on a day when it's supposed to rain, or when a person who shouldn't come shows up, those sorts of events excited me. In my callous boredom, those deviations from my predictions made my days feel strangely interesting, even though my life is repeated thousands of times. And yet, even so, why am I feeling so anxious right now? Why am I so scared? So lonely, so sad? Even though I'm a witch. Even after living for thousands of years, seeing so many unforgettable changes in the fates of so many people. Even though I should be some supernatural being that has overcome the fear of death. Why? I ask the question over and over inside my heart. Why? 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 I repeated the question like a broken record, but I never received an answer. And then, I finally realised. I see. The reason my heart was always stable was because I always had a destination. Like how birds in the sky are able to follow the sun to find their nests, or how a ship pulling into the harbour slowly follows the channel markers. For me, Hanyuu was always there, so I felt at ease. Even if I was crying, angry or depressed, somehow I was able to get my heart back on the right track. But Hanyuu was no longer here. And because of that, I could no longer calmly accept the changes I'd never seen before. Shion being kind to Satoko, Mion treating the younger classmates, though I used to enjoy the pleasure of witnessing an unprecedented fate. Now it just made me anxious about the future. How pitiful. Was I always such a pitiful creature? 549. Well, Rika, you're out. I disguised my facial expression and responded to Mion's proclamation by calling them out. To be honest, I wanted to vent my disgust with a frown. I couldn't understand what Mion was thinking, but I felt uncomfortable either way. Mion looked delighted as she called out the numbers of the younger students, one after another. It was vexing. So I just kept thinking about when this unpleasant moment would come to an end. 63. Huh? So we're ready? After reading out the numbers Toko provided her and verifying there were no other students left, Mion said that with an audacious smile on her face. Reina and Satoko were both breathing hard with a little sweat on their foreheads, but they seemed to have plenty of strength left. On the other hand, for underclassmen hoping to join the club, eventually, Tomita and Nakamura knelt down to the ground. Those two were still in good shape, but the other kids, especially the younger girls, were drenched in sweat, half smiling while breathing rapidly. My chest ached, and this wasn't the first time. The pain was so hot that it was about to burst through my chest at any moment, and I was about to puke. Mia, isn't it about time? Well, not now. Still want to keep going? Of course. Nakamura and Tomita courageously rose to their feet as they said that. However, the other kids were unable to stand like them. Some had even given up. After catching a quick glimpse of their expressions, they quickly came to regret the gesture. They felt helpless, and above all, they were disappointed in their resignation. It must be frustrating. It must be irritating. Rather than treating your opponent with hostility or hatred, when you know that you're helpless, all you can do is feel your guts boil over. When you finally give in and choose to surrender, you end up feeling more and more of that depressing self-loathing. Hey, Mio, that's enough. No good. Mio responded coldly and wouldn't listen to her. I suddenly turned towards her, but she quickly turned away with a calm expression. Keiichi, I understand how you feel, but if you want to be one of us, you need the skills to back it up. Our club members need to have a strong heart that won't hesitate, won't be discouraged, and will never give up. So we have no need for anyone who will give in easily. You can't give it their all until the very end. Besides, it's out of the question if they can't deliver results. It's nonsense. What was that? Well, it's true that Keiichi's been losing a lot lately, but there's no reason to view things from the loser's perspective. A game only has meaning when you're playing to win. Keiichi, even if you sympathize with them and want them to join us, the difference in ability is just too great. I don't think they'd enjoy it. Even if it's just a game, isn't it boring to keep on losing? People who think they know what they're talking about will speak of stress-free education and respect for individuality, but that's the nonsense of the week. Winning the entrance exam war is far more important than some notion of meaning or satisfaction. Your childish affection and fixation on equality are meaningless. You have to plow through the crowds of enemies and aim for victory. All of you. That's how it is. So there's no point in going any further. Alright, we're finished now. The E-class is almost over, so let's just cool down. Don't give me that bullshit. Finally, I turned to Mion and shouted out all my rage. Yes, rage. The unpleasant, painful sensation smouldering deep in my chest all this time was rage against Mion. No need for people who can't give their all. Out of the question if they can't produce results. Games are only about winning. It's boring if you just lose. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. What's with that? That's just like the old days when I was back in Tokyo. Results are everything. Anything is fine to put yourself above others. So just focus on winning and being superior, devoting all your time to that, burying yourself in it. Before long, I lost sight of what I was fighting for. It lost its significance and was just left hanging there. In the end, was the competition even fun? No, I didn't give a damn about my past. I've already cast it aside. But more importantly, more than anything else, I can't stand that my friends Mio, Reina, and Satoko were the ones saying these things. After all, I'm right about this, aren't I? If someone can't give it their all, I'll support them until they can stand back up. If they're feeling discouraged, I'll lend them a shoulder and tell them to do their best and have fun. If they can't get results, I'll stay beside them until they can. If they want to give up, we should lower the hurdle and give them the joy of reaching the goal. So what if there's someone who can't win? That's nonsense. If you can't win alone, work with someone else. And if that's not enough, bring 4 times as many. Then that's the Hinamizawa tradition. If stones are being thrown at someone, then 2 will throw them back. And if 2 throw stones, then 4 will respond. If 8 people are being chased with 6, then 16 will chase them back. If 30 people are being slandered, 60 will yell back. If you're attacked by 1,000 people, then all of Hinamizawa would fight back. Isn't that right? Keiichi, That's the spirit of Hinamisawa, so I've decided. All of them are going to join us, whether you accept it or not. And I'll continue to teach them how to have the strength to keep fighting until they're finally able to achieve the joy of victory. Keiichi... Soko tried to squeeze a few words out, but Neon immediately stepped in front of me. Then a grin floated to her face as she responded. Wow, Keiichi, you got a lot of fine things to say. No, they're truly amazing. This old man has been moved to the point of tears. But you understand, right? Even if you're being considerate of them, that doesn't mean you've convinced the rest of us. So what are you going to do? The moment she said that, just for that one brief moment, I hated the unbearably annoying Neon standing before me. Was the person standing before me really my best friend, Mion Samazaki? With my doubts and disappointed nagging at me, I considered denouncing the friendship right there. Thinking it over, that was a bad idea. Keeping your distance because you don't like something, cutting off a relationship because you're annoyed. Doing that would just be running away and admitting I couldn't win against Mion and the others. If that's the case, then there's only one thing to do. Yeah, I understand. The rules of our club. Whoever wins is right. So I'll make them win. Is that what you're saying, Keiichi? I'd like to refuse, but are you prepared to openly fight against us? Of course. No matter what the punishment is, bring it on. On the other hand, are you prepared for the possibility that I'll win? Are you willing to unconditionally accept my demand? No service will go unrewarded and no fault unpunished. If anyone other than the three of us manages to kick the can, then Keiichi wins. Of course, the chances of that are near zero. Don't forget what you just said. Alright, everyone. I vigorously turned around and faced the despondent underclassmen. Every last one of them looked exhausted. Tomita and Nakamura were still standing up and looking up, but most of them were still on the ground, struggling to even hold their heads up. Even so, I dared to inspire them. That's the thing about humans. You've only truly lost when your spirit is broken. How many of you can still move? No need to be shy. Those of you who've been through a lot can stay at ease. You have nothing to be ashamed of. Every last one of you did your best. You truly gave it your all. Maebara, it's cruel of me to ask everyone who's exhausted to get back up again. I realise that. Once you sit down, you think it's hard to move. I realise that too. But everyone, let me tell you this. I knelt down on the spot and spoke with all my heart, hoping to encourage them. I want all of you to join the club. So everyone, lend me your power. Just this once, let me borrow your strength. I want all of you to be acknowledged. Your feelings, your thoughts, and your spirit after giving your all this whole time. I don't want it to end like this, so I need you to believe in me, just a little. Just one more time, showing me the inspiration of believing in victory. Think it over. Your opponents are only a few years older. Is the difference in mind and body really that significant? Have you carefully been studying Mion and Tsutoka while aiming for victory, or have you just been losing to them? Which is it? I know the difference between cauliflower and broccoli. Yes. One of the downtrodden girls raised her head and spoke up. I gave her a gentle yet powerful pat on the shoulder and said, that's right. Moreover, there are only 4 opponents. No, they're losing one, so they're down to 3. And the one playing the role of the hunter can't move away from the can. So there are only 2 people to watch out for. Do you understand, Tomita, Okamura? That's the same number as the 2 of you. But the enemy is Ryugu. That's true, Reina certainly is a threat, so I'll stop Reina myself. That way, you only need to fight against a single person, Tsutoka. That's right. Even though those 2 were slowly losing their energy, their faces brightened up after hearing that. And at the same time, the younger students on the ground slowly began to raise their heads up and look at me. Alright, one more time. Okay everyone, there's no need to run. Tomita Nakamura and I will handle the 2 hands. So the rest of you have a single job, aim for the can. Don't be afraid of being tagged by Mion. Your opponent only has 2 hands. Right. Alright, everyone. I held up my hand. First Tomita and Nakamura put their hands on top, and then all of them put their strong little hands together. This is our last chance. Everyone, let's go. This is the final battle. Incredible. I can't believe what I was seeing. Can't be. All of the younger students were in poor spirits just a moment ago. They wouldn't outright say it, but they'd lost the energy to even stand from fatigue and helplessness. They thought even if they fought, they had no chance of winning. They were halfway, maybe even completely ready to give up. But despite that, after just a few words from Keiichi, they were getting on their feet again and wiping the dirt from their shorts with the same level of strength they had from the very beginning. Maybe even stronger. To tell the truth, even I thought they looked pathetic. They hit a little wall and began to mope. Still, they didn't want to accept defeat. They didn't want to accept that reality, so they turned their head down and waited for someone to sympathise with them. Such a sycophantic attitude. Perhaps that's not the case, but I couldn't see it any other way. I loathed watching Mion behave so haughtily, but honestly watching the younger students was just as tedious. So I'd simply turned my gaze inward. I stopped thinking and wanted to just stand still, waiting for time to pass. But Keiichi wasn't like that. He believed in their potential and stood up to his friends. He chose to reach a hand out to them. Oops, wrong button, sorry, Mabby. It wasn't the grace of a higher being, it was the cheap sympathy. It was kind but strong encouragement from deep in his heart. So everyone was able to get up again. They weren't forced into it. They did it at their own volition. They regained the will to fight. Sure, that's Keiichi for you. That never changes. No matter the time, no matter the place, Keiichi never changes. His strong convictions spin around and go out of control, which certainly can lead to tragedy. Still, Keiichi continued fighting fate until the very end. Because of his strength, the people around him simply can't ignore him. Deep down, I believe that. Keiichi, would you be the one to finally show it to me? A small miracle that can tear down this detestable time? Right before my eyes, Keiichi was holding the can in kick-off position. As I looked onward, surprisingly enough, I could feel my heart getting lighter. Let's go. A cool sound rang out as the empty can danced through the air. The younger students dashed to the back of the school building, while Reina and Satoko chased after the can. Hold on, Reina, Satoko. Huh? What? Once you recover the can, you can skip the countdown. But in exchange, you can't go for the can until you solve this problem. What could it be? What could it be? Here's the problem. There are bacteria that split in two once per minute. If you put one in a jar, the jar will be full after 1 hour. But if you put 2 of those bacteria in the jar, how long will it take to fill it? Well, why are you asking such a bizarre question? Keiichi, you're trying to trick us with a conventional riddle? Sorry, but this old man won't be caught in your web. The answer is simple once you think about it. It's half an hour, 30 minutes. Sorry, wrong answer. By the way, you're not allowed to go for the can until you get the answer right, okay? Well, why? There are twice as many of them, so it should happen in half the time, right? Alright, Rika, keep an eye on them until they get the right answer, okay? Roger, bye. Rika waved a hand with a weird-looking smile on her face. Incidentally, Rika was the only person I told the correct answer to. 1 hour 60, so if you double the speed, it will take 30, right? Reina's no good at maths. Hold on, Rika. Don't laugh at us like that. Please, just give us a small hint. The referee must remain neutral, Nipa? Mine and the others were still busy discussing it behind me. This may give us even more time than the 100 count normally would. I dashed to the back of the school building, where Tomita and Okamura were waiting. Nibara, preparations are complete. All the girls are in the classroom, and the other boys have gone to the other side of the school building. Alright, it's time to win this. Both of you ready for our tactic? Good to go. The two of them smiled at the same time and flashed me a thumbs up. After seeing that, I grabbed their hands and whispered. Right, we're comrades now. Don't call me Meibara, call me Keiichi. Okay, Keiichi. And please, call me Daiki. And call me Suguru. I'll leave everything to you, Keiichi. I'm never going to remember either of those. The two of them firmly placed their hands on mine, put my other hand on top and shouted, yeah! I could see Mion and the others from the far side of the school building. They must have finally solved it, because Reina was carrying the can back to the circle. It seemed like smoke was about to come blowing out of Reina's head, and Satoko was being Satoko. Her face was so bright red I could see it clearly from here. And Mion seemed to be laughing, but her eyes were constantly pointing straight in this direction. She must be certain I'm lurking back up here and constantly on watch. Now, let the game begin. Club members? I slowly raised my hand and then vigorously shouted and pointed forward. With that cry, all our separate teams washed towards the can at once. Reina and Satoko quickly moved in to intercept. Reina moved towards the core that had approached earlier and began her attack. You're here, you're here. Only if you approach you all at once, it's useless. detached corps were overwhelmed by the unstoppable advance, and while they groaned, Satoko moved in behind them to read their numbers. There was no technique to a mass attack. Uh-huh. What happened? Satoko? Get their numbers, quick. 475? No, is that a 2? Wrong. Invalid answer. Rika formed an X in front of her chest with her eyes. Looking on, Satoko had gotten impatient and mistakenly read several people's numbers. Rika declared her answers invalid. What's the problem, Satoko? You have to read them properly, you know? Well, the numbers on the back are upside down. Huh? Yes. The reason for buying that extra time earlier was so we could invert everyone's player numbers. Peachy, you really did it this time. Referee. Rule said nothing about the direction of the numbers. Right, Rika? It's okay. No violation. Rika had a huge smile on her face as her arms formed a circle overhead. Meanwhile, a few of the troops who'd escaped Satoko's initial shootout were on the move again, resuming the attack. Reina! No good, no good. You won't take another step closer. The detached corps were once again defeated by Reina's godlike speed. What's more, this time she used a combination technique with a twist to get them to fall face down rather than on their backs. Nice work, Reina. Numbers are 577, 269, 174. From Satoko's perspective, the kids who fell over were practically doing a handstand. As a result, their inverted numbers were easy to return to their original orientation, making them far easier to read. Well done, Keiichi. That's an interesting strategy. I wonder if he's feeling a little flustered. Oh, in the end, it was just a hasty attempt to retemper a dull blade. After eliminating the detached corps, Reina and Satoko immediately moved in front of the main squad. Then they tried to wrap around to the left and right to steal a glance at their backs. Of course, that was keeping in mind Mion's field of view as the hunter. In other words, we needed to engage in a dogfight against two enemy fighters while avoiding their long-range sniper fire. Reina, you're my opponent. Sorry, Keiichi, but you're not my opponent at the moment. I wouldn't allow you to take even one step closer. Excellent. Daiki, Suguru, I'll leave Satoko to you. Leave it to us. They dodged sideways as they said that to lure Satoko away from me. They were able to skillfully switch directions as expected of members of the baseball club. Satoko quickly took that chance to move behind them. However, they quickly stood back to back to conceal one another's numbers. Such cowardice. Rika? There were no stated rules about hiding them. No violation. After Rika's protection, Satoko had no choice but to jump out and chase them. However, thanks to the demanding nature of that, it would leave the area near the can more exposed. Reina, stop those two! Got it! I'm coming. Uh-huh. Didn't I tell you I'm your opponent? Reina stopped for a moment and watched as I began to dash towards the can. Then she finally settled on me as the target and turned towards me with an expressionless look, devoid of her earlier smile. Keiichi, if you get in the way, it'll make Reina a little bit angry, okay? How interesting. I want that image of an angry Reina burnt into my eyes. So, you've made your choice then. Then, shall we go? Reina's eyes sharpened and turned deep red. Felt like there was intense pressure on my legs. No, my entire body was frozen. Couldn't move. The light in her eyes was strong enough to pin an enemy down. And then I reflectively stepped back to dodge an arm that came a sheet of papers whipped away from my chest and side. When I looked down on the neckline of my jean shirt, I noticed one of the buttons was missing. Nicely done. I expected as much. But what now? Reina advanced forward to close the gap. I was so overwhelmed by the pressure that I was about to be crushed, but I managed to endure it. And then, as I watched Reina, I realised it was the sharpness of her gaze that threw me off. Then I widened my field of view around her so I could see her movements and signs, and once I did see that Reina was breathing heavily and drooping her shoulders, just like me. That's it, her eyes. As long as I don't look her in the eyes, I can still clearly see her movements. Of course, I didn't let her pick up on my mental instability. I maintained my wider field of focus and assumed a resolute posture. Reina must be feeling just as anxious as me. The longer this goes on, the more likely our movements are to open gaps, so we have to be vigilant of attacks on opportunity. So in that case, the most optimal strategy is to carefully study your opponent and be prepared to launch a counterattack. Whoever moves first will be at a disadvantage. However, Unlike me, Reina must feel pressed for times, since she also needs to go help Toko deal with Daiki and Suguru. Without her patience will force her to brute force attack, which is, of course, a perfect opportunity for me. A moment later, I felt Reina moving in to grab my left sleeve, so I stepped back into the right to dodge. Then I hooked my leg around Reina's left leg, which had just stepped past me, and lightly pushed on her shoulder to take advantage of her momentum. Apparently unable to predict that attack, Reina stumbled down and landed on her butt. I quickly rushed in to help her before remembering our current situation and came to a stop. Keiichi, you're awful. Sorry, I didn't think you'd fall like that. Keiichi's being awful? This is a punishment game. You have to be prepared for anything your opponent throws at you. Well, Mion was supposed to be protecting the camp, so when I understood the implication of her being over here, I quickly turned around. Beyond Mion's shoulders, I could see Daiki and Suguru suddenly kneeling on the ground. Well, that was pretty fun, but it's about time to end this game. Oh, well done, Keiichi, but it simply wasn't enough. Satoko was also heading towards me with a fearless smile on her face. Then I noticed that Reina had gotten up and was moving behind me, trying to cut off my retreat. If things kept up like this, one of them will be able to see my number and the other will get me out. If they can make it back to the can, it'll be game over. Mion, is it really alright to leave your base unattended? There are still troops out there, you know. Don't underestimate this, on man. You tell at the time of kickoff that none of the girls had the energy to run anymore. See, so Mion was able to foresee that much? Actually, you got the better of us with that quiz. Took a while to figure it out, so we lost a lot of time. Indeed, it only saves you the first minute, where one divides in two, so the answer is 59 minutes. By the way, let me ask, you figured it out? And it was Reina. Even though Mion was able to explain it now, it took her a really long time to understand it. I see, that's Mion, alright. Now then, have you prepared yourself? This is a punishment game, by the way. Sure, but are you okay with that? Eh? The younger students are heading toward the can right over there. Not that prank again. Didn't you try that earlier? They don't have the energy to run. Sure, but it looks like they might have the energy to walk. As soon as she heard that, Mion turned back and was shocked to see the younger girls. Our last hidden ball play. While we drew the attention of our three opponents, the girls recovered their physical strength and launched our strategy of attacking the enemy HQ as a mobile battalion. Naturally, it was hard to expect them to run, but I was certain they'd be able to walk after a short rest. Stoko! Roger! Stoko quickly turned around and rushed to stop the girls' invasion. But, Keiichi, should you really have done that? You just explicitly told me about your surprise attack. Is that so? Reina, take a good look at those kids. Huh? How? When Reina saw the girls toddling forward, she burst. Her nose began to bleed. They changed out of the gym clothes during the downtime and were now all in costume. The outfits, want to take them home with me. Reina? Wait, no matter how you look at it, this is a trap. Unable to endure the adorable sight, Reina completely forgot that she was about to corner me and ran off towards the girls. Of course, I wasn't such a good-natured person and let this opportunity go to waste. Oops, one button there. Oh no! Reina, Satoko, stop Keiichi! I didn't bother hiding my back and slipped past Mion, charging towards the can. Mion had abandoned her hunter post to move in behind me. In other words, the empty base was unattended, and that was my true objective. Well, Keiichi? Huh? Satoko noticed me moving, and Reina had finally come back to her senses, so they rushed back to their base. Our speed and distance are roughly equal, so the key that will decide victory in this game is willpower. 10 meters. Stop him! 5 meters. Gotta make it in time. 3 meters. You will not reach the goal. Then... the dust in the air settled. After diving full force to the ground, I got up and looked onwards. The can was still there. Satoko dove at it with a desperate sliding kick. Reina pulled out all the stops to extend a saving hand. My thoughts, no everyone's thoughts, came to a complete halt after that wholehearted play. couldn't say anything. My body wouldn't move. And the same applied to Reina and Stoko, and probably Mion behind us too. Nobody moved a muscle. We just silently stared at the can. I lost. Even after inspiring everyone. I filled them with dreams and anticipation. I put on such a show with my big mouth. But in the end, pitter-patter came from nearby. Rika walked up next to the can and raised her right hand. Then, we have a winner. Ow. Keiichi and the younger students. Right before our eyes. I knew this was going to happen. As soon as there was anyone except for the three of us kicks the can, you win. Rika kicked the can herself. As I stood there stunned, she turned to me with a broad smile. Rika? Congratulations, Keiichi. You won. But Mi said if anyone other than the three of us kicks the can, Keiichi's team wins. So nobody can complain if I kicked it. Right, Mi? Mion made a sour face at that blunder, but it quickly transformed into a bitter smile and then a proper smile. Congratulations, Keiichi. You win. I did it. After Rika's declaration and Mion's response, all the boys who were crying out in frustration just a moment ago, including Daiki and Suguru, and the girls who were sitting on the ground, unable to keep standing, all at once they let out a jubilant sound, full of muddy sweat and warm tears, and they rushed towards me, each raising their voices to share their joy. Just then I heard a distant chime signalling the end of class. It seemed louder than usual, like it was celebrating our victory. I've got energy, let's keep going. Okay. So, I think we've got 1 to 2 more chapters in me. I now acknowledge all of you as members of the club. Right after Mion's proclamation, a thunderous cry and loud applause resounded all at once. Congratulations, everyone. You really did your best. I'm truly grateful you gave it your all this whole time. I bid you all welcome. Everyone fought really hard. Welcome to the club. Reina, Sateka, and even Rika had gained their vitality, and they all welcomed our new members with wholehearted smiles. There was a strange sense of unity in all our hearts that only those who truly fought hard could share. Is it alright to still be out here? We have class right after this. It's fine, it's fine. That's what this was for. As she said that, Mion held up the can that we'd been using on our game until a moment ago. I see, so she brightened his cheer with that curry? Everyone be quiet. There's actually something else to go over, so quiet down. Everyone followed Mion's command in unison. And after everyone calmed down, Mion cleared her throat and took a look at everyone, then took a breath, and spoke up. My name is Mion Sonozaki, and I've been the class representative at the school for a long time now. But as of today, I wish to retire from my position as the leader. Huh? Everyone cried out in shock. That's right, Mion is our leader. Our leader is Mion. That fact was synonymous with the school itself. And yet, Mion wanted to step class down as class representative. Mion, what are you thinking? If this is a joke, it's in bad taste. It's not a joke, I'm completely serious. Even if you're serious, it's still no good. No matter how much you oppose having new members, nobody thinks less of you for it, so... Keiichi, please be quiet and hear me out. Please. Mion waited for the restless younger students to calm down, then continued. First of all, I'm preparing for upcoming entrance exams. That keeps me busy, but I'm also thinking about what will happen after I graduate and leave this school. So ever since this spring, I've been thinking about who should be my successor. Mion, the class representative has responsibilities. It's a job. Above all, you need the leadership to wrangle the entire class, and you'll have to handle the chores like me. I was worried I wouldn't be able to find someone I could entrust the position to. But then, Mion raised her head. Uh-huh. Something about her was strange. Mion looked brighter, more radiant than usual, and I thought it was pretty cute. I felt something ever since Keiichi moved to Hinamizawa. He's fun, he has the resolve to take action, and he's an all-around kind-hearted guy. I think that Keiichi would make a good class rep, and everyone will be able to follow him. So? Then Mion looked at me. Her eyes were glistening and she seemed to be taking a deep breath. But her words had no hint of her usual trickery. Keiichi, I want you to be the class representative. I want to entrust everyone to you in my place. Mion, it's alright. You should be able to handle everyone. You have strong convictions to do the right thing, and you're able to encourage and inspire everyone, even in difficult situations. If you're able to do that, I'm certain you'll be able to keep everyone together. As long as you're in charge, I'll be able to keep on believing that. Then, Mion, from the very beginning, you... Mion smiled at my question. When I turned to look around, Reina and Satoko were making the same face. When she tried to push the younger students out like that, it was all for the sake of learning about me. It feels like I was being tested. I apologised for being so direct about it, but I had to know whether you had it in you to take on this role. After hearing that explanation, there was no longer any reason to feel uncomfortable. In fact, I felt a little happy. Sorry, I was checking my phone to see because I got an email and it's my credit card statement from the UK. Put that on the list of things that I need to deal with at some point. I'm not going to get distracted. In fact, I feel a little happy. So will you accept, Keiichi? Just then, I noticed that all the classmates who were silently listening to me and were staring at me. They were all smiling and I could feel their warmth. I turned to Reina. Keiichi, good luck. I turned to Satoko. I'm certain we'll be fine if Keiichi's in charge. And then Rika. Keiichi. But instead of her usual fight-on line of dialogue, I think nothing is impossible as long as Keiichi is around. On that encouragement, will you follow me? They all cheered in unison, and then they broke out into applause. Congratulations, Maebara. Keep at it, you can do it. Then I noticed that Miss Che and the principal had come out of the school building to give me their blessing with smiles on their faces. What is this? This feeling of satisfaction. Feels better than getting a good score on a test. Feels better than winning in club activities and games. I'm filled with happiness and satisfaction. Feels like something hot is welling up inside my chest. Sorry, I said I wasn't going to get distracted and I had to check something. I can't. Okay, 27 chapters. Seven divided by 6 is 3.5. Plus time to read. It's fine. I mean, for me, being tired in the future. Doing some basic maths, I'm not good at it. Feels like something hot is welling up in my chest. The sky had turned red. Before I realised it, the sun had already gone down, dyeing the schoolyard and the school building in the hue of sunset. The familiar, lonely voice of the Higurashi cried out. It blended together with everyone's voices and warm thoughts and sounded like they were congratulating me. It's the roller coaster coming up to the top before it falls down, you see. The next day, ever since the morning, the laughter never stopped. Is that so? Sounds like a fierce battle. It was the pinnacle of excitement. Keiichi's final suicide attack is a scene that will live on in club history. Oh dear, how unfortunate. I really would have liked to see that. Just listening to the story, I can tell how fun it must have been. Rie listened to Satoko's story with a smile on his face, while jotting diagnostic information down on a medical chart. Satoko was holding her head high and making exaggerated gestures while joyously telling the story. It seemed like she'd still be excited about it days from now. But It hasn't been that long since Maebara moved to Hinamizawa, has it? So, isn't it a rather heavy burden to make him Mion's successor? First, Reina and I thought so. Would it not be better to have him spend a little more time getting used to life in Hinamizawa? But after that game of Kick the Can, I was convinced. I'm certain Keiichi will make an entertaining class representative. On that point, I secretly agreed. I'm sure, in many ways, a club centred around Keiichi will be one of the greatest things in this village. After all, even our usual penalty games make for a lively story among the villagers. Keiichi can't hear that I've been skipping school, so that fact needs to remain a secret. I see. If it's as you say, Stego, then you have nothing to worry about. I'd love to have him go on another rampage helping out the Hinamizawa fighters in our next game. We'll charge him with the golf club again next time. Oh, I had such a good laugh when that happened. Satoko let out a huge beaming laugh while thinking back on that lovely spectacle. Then we talked about Keiichi's one-on-one battle with that elite high school level pitcher, and Satoko's home run right after. Irie seemed to be getting excited. Witnessing that spectacle gave me a warm feeling too. It was delightful. Anyway, these past 2 weeks, nearly everything we've talked about has been related to Keiichi. I wonder if Satoko has noticed. Whenever I search for something bright to cheer me up when I'm feeling down, Keiichi is always at the centre of it, but on top of that, Satoko herself seems quite fond of him. And as proof of that, Satoko always seemed to have a delightful smile on her face, devoid of any gleam or shadows, any time we talked about Keiichi. Anyway, you're quite the schemer, Rika. Double-crossing your clubmates at the very, very end. Double-crossing sounds scandalous. I'd like to say I picked the winning horse. I expect no less from you, Rika. You're always able to read the odds of victory. Rika never lets her guard down or leaves any openings. It's completely unthinkable for her to betray us in a place like that. From now on, I need to be more cautious of her movements. Oh dear, is the golden pair breaking up? That's rough. I wonder if Satoko will become a regular victim in the penalty games. If I don't stick with Satoko, she'll turn into a stone tanuki. What did you just say? I don't know what you mean by that, but I cannot overlook it. Bow. I shifted my upper body to evade Satoko's reaching hands. Satoko tried to get up from the chair in frustration, but Irie stopped her with a bitter smile on his face. I know I said that I was going to keep going, but I think I'm actually going to finish after this chapter. Because I'm really hungry. I absolutely fucked up my sleep schedule and my eating schedule, which means that I've been really struggling with low blood sugar the whole day. I'm pretty certain that's why I've still got pins and needles in my hands, because I've not been putting any pressure on my elbow, which is normally what caused it. Anyway, the point is I'm hungry, so I want to finish this after this chapter. I'll go make something to eat and try my hardest to get my sleep schedule back, on track. Irie stopped her with a bitter smile on his face. Alright, Satoko, you still need to have your exam. And after that, there are still shots you need. Shots. Also, my throat is sore. That's right. Upon hearing that, Satoko quickly became meek as a lamb. Then, Takano stepped up beside her and sterilised her arm with alcohol, while giving Irie a shifty glare. An unpleasant feeling began to well up as I looked at the mirror on the white wall of the exam room. Gazing at my reflection, I could immediately tell how stiff I looked. Satoko was stiff and tense, but Takano comforted her with a cheerful smile. However, now that I could see the darkness lurking behind that smile, it sent a chill coursing through my entire body. That's no good, Rika Furude. Calm down. Act more calm and natural. Don't get nervous. So far, things are still alright. So far, things are still... Okay, well done. Huh? Wow, that took no time at all. When I heard that, I looked back towards Satoko. Irie was already getting up to go wash his hands, and Takano was administering Satoko with post-injection disinfectant. Looks like you've gotten used to injections. It's hard to believe you used to cause such an uproar. It was not noisy enough to be considered an uproar, just a minor outburst. You punched Irie himself. I'd hardly consider that a minor outburst. I was just casually swinging my fists, and someone just happened to connect. Satoko desperately tried to defend herself, but a hit that clean would have been impossible without deliberate aim. Incidentally, she hit him with a weak spot between the nose and the mouth. Irie let out a scream like some kind of manga character when she hit him, and he spent a little while just staring at her absent-mindedly. That's right, and you scratched my arm too. It was bad enough to make a welt form on my upper arm. I'm sorry about that. I gave you a proper apology afterwards. Mr. Kano, you're just as persistent as Shion. Sorry about that. I couldn't help it. It's because Satoko's just so cute, isn't she? Takano gently stroked her head after saying that. Satoko offered a faintly sulking move, but didn't fight it. For the time being, it feels like a nice, friendly atmosphere. Satoko doesn't seem to be in any danger, so let's let them keep going along. Oh yeah, you haven't forgotten, have you? About that punch? Yes, of course. That punch filled my heart with incredible feelings. It shot straight through me. It would be nice if you could take being punched a little more seriously. Oh my, Satoko, are you admitting it was intentional? It's okay, it's okay. Intention is done with love. Wiggled and struck some kind of nonsense dance, which was unpleasant, but he seemed completely oblivious to that, which made it even worse. Anyway, your strange hobbies really get you worked up. See how well you can speak? There's a very fine line between genius and something else. I'd like to believe that some godly blessing has made it so we haven't had any problems until now. Both of them are terrible, but I did secretly agree on that. And then I remembered that I couldn't waste the entire day on idle chatter. Satoko, if you don't finish your exam soon, we'll be late. I pointed to the clock on the wall as I said that. Planning to celebrate Keiichi becoming the last representative by having a barbecue party at the Frude Shrine Grounds today. That's why we're still wearing our school uniforms on a Sunday. But if this idle banter continues, we'll miss our scheduled meeting time. That's right. Mr. Kano, may we start now? Of course, let's get going. For the time being, we decided to move quickly to meet our schedule and watched Irie as he made some heroic pose looking up towards the sky. Satoko headed towards the back of the desk. Headed to the desk in the back of the exam room with Takano. I poured myself a glass of tea from the teapot on the nearby desk and took a sip, waiting a little while longer. At the desk in the back, Satoko was answering Takano's questions one by one. First glance, it might look like some kind of quiz game, but it's actually an important test to measure the progression of the disease. As I watched, the mixed feelings that nagged at me earlier suddenly came back to me. I don't understand. No matter how much I think about it, I don't understand. Why is Takano out? Takano, commander of the Mountain Dogs, the Special Forces unit keeping watch over me, and the true culprit who killed me. Simmering black emotions came back to me when I thought it back then. I wanted to release the murderous rage pooling in the bottom of my chest. Suddenly I looked at the desk. The syringe that was just administered to Satoko was laying on the silver tray, shining brightly. Right here, right now, I could quietly approach Takano. I grabbed the syringe from the desk, took aim while she was defenseless, and plunged it into her neck to send air into her blood vessels, then I'm sure. I shook my head to stave off this brief, dark thoughts. No matter how gentle she acts, Takano is the commander of the Mountain Dogs. A soldier. Even if I took her by surprise, she should be able to easily repel an attack from a child. Since I'm unarmed, she'd be a fair match for me. At any rate, I'd just be speeding up the hands on the clock of hell approaching my day of death. Thus, why does Takano want to kill me in the first place? And what will happen to Hinamizawa after I die? I need to know at least that much, so until then, I need to refrain from doing anything hasty. Unfortunately. Riko? Meep? Are you doing alright? Looks like you're still not feeling well. When I turned back and finally returned to this world, I found Irie staring at me with an anxious expression. Meep, I'm fine. I think it's just a summer cold. If that's the case, then it's fine. Would you like me to give you some medicine? I don't need medicine. If I sleep and eat well, I should get better soon. I see. Understood. But if anything abnormal comes up, don't hesitate to speak up. I'll do anything in my power to help. It'll be alright. This won't have any impact on your research, so you don't need to worry. Right. A mixed expression suddenly floated to Irie's face, and he turned his gaze downward. I immediately regretted saying that. I'd inadvertently trampled on his goodwill. Irie is using Satoko and I as test subjects to research the pathogens prevalent in Hinamizawa. In other words, we're his guinea pigs. Irie is aware that the medication trials, blood sample collection, and medical interviews being conducted on us are inhumane, and I realise how ashamed he is of that. What's more, his fondness for Satoko and guilt over her treatment are so strong and earnest that I could never picture him as some selfless researcher. His motivation is sad and reciprocal, but still it doesn't feel right to consider it some casual courtesy. I submissively reflected on my carelessness. I'm sorry. That was a mean thing to say. Oh no, it's alright. It's painful to hear, but it's certainly true. It's not fair what we're forcing on you. I'm terribly sorry. Irie removed his glasses and wiped the fog from them as he said that. His expression looked pained, and I felt deeply sorry. We're able to go on living our lives thanks to that, so I'm fine with it. By the way, how's the research coming along? Thanks to the two of you, we're certainly seeing results. However, we still haven't reached a suitable countermeasure. We're just a breath away, but nothing has been decisive. It's still far from satisfactory. Then what about Satoko's illness? She's currently stable, maintaining a lull at level 3-. Still, that level is far from being cured. And if something unexpected happens, it wouldn't be unusual for her to get sick again. It's frustrating. We just had more time and money. In another 3 years, I wonder if we'll have the means to restore people with terminal symptoms. Irie, you're doing great work. Satoko and I are very grateful. Thanks. Hearing that does make me feel a bit better. Irie donned a smile as he said that, finally seeming relieved. He mentioned once before that the research into Hinamizawa syndrome will be concluded 3 years from now. After that, this clinic will be converted to a normal private medical facility, and all the large-scale equipment will be transferred to a bigger hospital in Gobura. Irie, what are you planning to do 3 years from now? Thanks to that therapeutic drug we happened to stumble on, I've received invitations from several medical facilities. To be honest, that was exactly what I was hoping for when I first came here. But now, if possible... Irie gently squinted his eyes while looking at Satoko, who was still receiving her medical examination. But when he noticed my gaze, he suddenly turned back to me with an embarrassed smile on his face. Anyway, even if it's just a summer cold, you can't do anything foolish. Try to keep warm and be careful with your diet. Understood. But if I leave everything to Satoko, she'll just make noodles because it's easy. I heard that, Rika. And the reason I make noodles is because you said you had no appetite, right? Come on, Satoko. We're also measuring timing here, so you need to concentrate. After that scolding from Takano, Satoko begrudgingly swiveled a chair back towards her. Apparently they were conducting psychological tests over there using pictures. Satoko was worried about you too, you know? Keep this a secret, but she came to me asking, is there any medicine for summer colds and what sort of food would be best? She stopped by every day on the way home after shopping. I didn't know. Satoko is such a kind girl. That's why I want to understand this disease. I want to dedicate everything I have in order to save her. For the sake of that, thank you. I spoke sincerely to Irie, and again I was convinced that he was an honest researcher with no intention to do harm. So this plan is Mr. Kano acting alone? If so, what's her intention? Hello, this is Irie. There's an external call from Tokyo. I'll transfer it your way. You'd hear a loud voice coming in through the receiver. Right, I guess it's already time. That must be Risa. I'll take the call in the director's office, so please send it over there. Irie gave that answer, then hung up the receiver. Then I heard another phone ring off in the distance. Sorry, Rika. I just received a call from Tokyo. Please excuse me. Take care then. Bye. Irie exited the exam room and headed to the rector's office. When I looked back at Satoko, she was still in the middle of her screaming. Takano, do you mind if I step outside to get some fresh air? Sure, I don't mind. This is going to take a little while longer anyway. Rika, don't you dare leave me behind. Satoko looked up from the picture book she'd been studying to glare at me. Sheesh, seems like my credibility has considerably fallen since my earlier betrayal. You're deeply in my debt, Keiichi. It's alright. I just need to get some sunlight and I'll feel better. Since when did you turn into a sunflower, Rika? Anyway, understood. I'll call for you as soon as this test is complete, so please, wait for me. Okay, let's get back to work, Satoko. Right, next. I made my way out of the exam room without even listening to Takano finish. Even though it was still morning, the sunlight was so intense that it blinded me the moment I stepped outside. And the weather was scorching today too. The sky was a deep navy blue with some small fluffy clouds. I could hear the loud cries of the cicadas coming from trees all around me. I took a seat on the shaded portion of the stone steps in front of the entrance, while wiping the sweat from my forehead. Past Representative Mibara. I'm sure the party today is going to be quite an exciting affair. I thought back as I whispered that to myself, but I couldn't remember a single world where Keiichi became the class rep. And this was my first time in a world without Hanyuu. That alone was enough to make it feel like a completely unprecedented experience, but on top of that, the human relations in this world have changed slightly compared to before. For example, Keiichi has become very well known and is actively taking on leadership duties. Shion has a very close relationship with Satoko, and she's maintaining good relations with the club members. It was also a bit of a surprise that classmates and other villagers had accepted Keiichi and thought so favourably of them. After everything that's happened up until now, it was enough to make me feel a little like a stranger here. Come to think of it, that reminds me of what Shion said in the nurse's office. Even if it's hard to believe, you have to keep on believing. I feel like someone once said that. Those words brought back memories. That's something Keiichi said in a previous world, trying to rescue Satoko from Teppei. Shion was getting out of control and desperately wanted to help Satoko, but when she heard that, she completely stopped thinking of murder. I'm not going to move from here, even if you kill me. If I let you go, we might never see you again. Satoko will think about you every day and her heart will be filled with sadness. If that happens, there won't be anything we can do to make her happy. It's going to be a very sad life for her. I don't want Satoko to live in a sad world like that. The future that we want is a wild and riotous one, just like what we had until a few days ago. Of course I won't let Satoko's uncle threaten her any longer. I haven't decided how I'm going to do it yet, but I will know soon, I promise. So please, just trust me. That happened in a previous world, but it's possible that Keiichi and the others were able to carry those memories of past experiences to this one, like me. And then I thought it over. Were those changes good or bad for me? Stop thinking about it. I suddenly laughed at my foolish question. For the time being, I tried to sort out my situation by evaluating the advantages and disadvantages of this world that was so unlike anything I'd experienced so far. That's the main advantage. I know the identity of the enemy aiming to take my life. Until now, I always had to be careful with my actions to avoid being trampled upon. So for the first time, I had the option to be proactive. Depending on my actions, I may be able to steer this world to my will. Now the main disadvantage, needless to say, it's that Hanyuu isn't here. Honestly, when she was here, she was also talkative and always so talkative and annoying. But now that she's gone, I'm unable to consult with her about the future. It's a feeling I've never tasted before. And I'm afraid that this may be the final world. Those two concerns have constantly been by my side. And that's what brought me here. But even though the objective and the enemy have been made clear, the fact that this is a cruel game where not even a single failure is allowed has forced me to think carefully about how best to confront them. It's like a game of blackjack. If you pull a card and your total exceeds 21, you bust. And even if you want to compete with safe numbers, if your opponent's number exceeds yours, you have to keep going until you reach that point. What's worse, the game can be decided by a score of 21. There's no clear standard for judging your relative offensive and defensive capabilities. So even though I've succeeded in retaining those memories, I haven't actually increased my odds of success. Whether I sit down and wait for fate to arrive or step forward to make my own destiny, the risk is still the same. In fact, there's even a chance that unnecessary movements could heighten the risk. I'm miserable. I was disgusted with myself every time I thought back on it. Didn't Keiichi and the other club members say that it's worthless to give up without trying? That's right. What would Keiichi do in this situation? For some reason, Keiichi Maebara, the most interesting person in all the times I've experienced thus far, came to mind. I recalled the words he shouted to me once before. Don't get carried away, Rika. Don't just say you can read the future. For a guy, words like destiny and fate mean a lot more than you think. They're not things you can figure out that easily. You said it was fate that the owner would choose the game of life. I have to admit that your prediction was correct. But you also said something else. What did I say? You said I was fated to play it. In that case, I'll change that fate. Keiichi definitely said that back then. And he proved he was right. It wasn't just in the past world. Even in this world, Keiichi was fighting on behalf of the younger students who wanted to join the club. Never giving up, even in the face of overwhelming disadvantage. I still don't know why I suddenly decided to help him back then. But oddly enough, I don't regret it at all. Keiichi had enough power to make me think so. Can I be as strong as Keiichi? Right now, I have two goals to accomplish. The first is a selfish desire to ensure my own survival, and the other is to reveal the truth behind Takano's conspiracy. My future actions hinge on a decision over which of those I consider more important, in which case my priority should be... Can I go for my own survival? My own survival? No, that's wrong. I've always thought that up until now, but that's not enough. F. Even if I know the identity of my killer, if I don't know their motivation, this will go on like this forever. Even with Takano gone, depending on the situation, they might just dispatch a second or third assassin. That's right. The most important thing is uncovering Takano's conspiracy. I like that while neither of them lead to a bad ending, you can select one and she basically immediately says, Until I know that, I won't be able to understand her reasons for slitting my belly open and killing me at such a specific, predetermined time. And without a proper understanding of the motive, I'll have a hard time predicting Takano's actions. Of course, I never even suspected her as the culprit until now, so it won't be easy to find the truth. Now I'm pursuing a line of reasoning I've never considered before. I've always thought it'd be difficult to plan ahead without understanding the enemy's reasoning, but the inverse is just as true. If I understand their motive, I can predict their movements to some extent. Maybe excessively optimistic of me to say, but this opportunity did give me hope for finding an unexpected breakthrough. If only Hanyuu was by my side this time. She'd probably chide me for getting carried away with expectations. No, this isn't the time to be thinking of that. I'm just feeling depressed. I took a deep breath to calm myself down, then thought it over once more. So what can I do to uncover Takano's conspiracy? That's what I should be thinking about. First of all, the people in Hinamizawa who should know Takano's true identity include me and Irie, as well as Tomitake, who periodically visits here. There's also Okanobu, the commander of the so-called Mount Dogs, tasked with my safekeeping, but I can exclude him because he reports directly to Takano. Thus, the cooperation of those two will be indispensable in order to investigate Takano. But would they be willing to cooperate with me and share details of her plan? Unfortunately, the answer is currently no. First off, they both completely trust Takano and consider her a comrade. And once more, Tomitake would never believe that his sweetheart was planning to kill him unless he saw it with his own 2 eyes. In which case, the two of them would probably laugh even if I told them the truth. Or they think my condition was worsening and causing me to have baseless paranoia. What of that would undoubtedly reach Takano's ears, and in the meantime, she'd continue proceeding with her plan, starting with the killing of Tomitake, and then she'd move on to murdering me as well. This might be tough. Once I thought about it, I realised how unfeasible it seemed, and shook my head. For now, it'll take time and credible evidence to get them on my side. While they certainly have the most effective means to combat Takano, it'll be difficult to earn their support. Next, I should try to think of someone willing to help me investigate this conspiracy. Of course, the first person to come to mind is Oishi. He's been passionately investigating the serial deaths in Hinamizawa ever since the murder of the dam construction manager. And I've heard he's planning to retire soon, so he's frantically searching for the culprit. The reason for his passions is something I heard from Oishi himself in a previous world. The construction manager who was killed 5 years ago was like a father to him. And that's why he'll never forgive the criminal who so brutally murdered him. Even if I'm nothing but a child, right now he'd still earnestly listen to me. But the problem is his actions are too conspicuous. Even in the previous world, we ended up losing contact during the middle of the investigation. He probably went too far and Takano had to deal with him. When the Akasaka were here, is it too much to wish for that? As I whispered that to myself, I pictured the face of that strong, capable young man. He came back to Hinamizawa in the previous world by chance, but normally he only comes here when it involves a case. If Akasaka was able to team up with Oishi, they'd be even more powerful. But it would be difficult for Oishi to stand up to Takano and her organisation on his own. And then the third group. I thought about having Keiichi and the club members help me find the truth. They're certainly not as powerful as the previous two, but I think the club members are close to the best condition I've seen among any of the previous worlds. Everyone is united with Keiichi at the centre, plus the relationships between Mion and Shion, and between Shion and Satoka are both looking good. I am taking a screenshot of that. You can't see it because I've seen the overlay turned off, because I know for a fact that there's some funky, fresh, dramatic irony going on there. Keiichi in particular has become extremely dependable. He has strength and a powerful sense of justice, and he's demonstrated leadership I'd never seen before. And in the previous world, he was able to step forward and confront Takano. In which case, should I tell Keiichi and the others the truth and ask them to cooperate, like I did in the previous world? No, they were only able to believe me last time because of the abnormal circumstances of the curse of the 5th year. If I suddenly tell them a huge story like that in a situation where nothing was happening, it's hard to tell if they'd believe me. And even if they did believe me, what help would their cooperation be? Even though the outcome was still unclear, it felt irresponsible, so there wouldn't be any point in talking to them. In the worst case, there's even a risk that getting them involved in this chain of misfortune would put them in danger. In fact, people died in the previous world because of their involvement. It's a clear example of the failure of knowing your enemy, but not how to deal with them. In which case, I'm on my own. No, that's the same as before. I've tried everything I could think of, but it was never good enough. So I need to have an ally. And if that's the case, the most dependable person to have on my side is... I'm not used to these being like not bad endings. I'll come back and do the alternate dialogue options and bad endings and stuff like that. Of the 3, really don't know. I'm tempted to go, in fact, you know what, I'm going to select Keiichi. That's right, it's Keiichi. I whispered that to nobody in particular while picturing his face. Keiichi Maebara. He was shockingly impulsive, but he was a boy full of kindness and compassion for others. Even as things are now, I can trust him, but if he's able to somehow inherit his previous memories, he'll be even more dependable. Plus, I have a hunch that he'll be the one to find a breakthrough. Even in the previous world, he was able to overcome the wall of fate long after I'd given up. His strong will and propensity to take action are qualities I never had. The question is, when should I divulge the truth to him? Even if I were to suddenly tell him about this, I'm still not confident he'd take it seriously. Right. Normally Hanyuu would be pushing me on my back at times like this. When she agreed with me, I felt encouraged. When she opposed me, it gave me a rebellious feeling. But now that she's gone, I don't have any of that. So I'm unable to put my feelings behind me and move on. It was staggering. Ultimately, it made me even more aware of the fact that I hadn't made any decisions on my own thus far. Rika, you're all done. Just then I heard Takano calling out to me from the front door of the clinic. I felt completely disgusted when she looked down at me with a bright smile, but I can quickly regain my composure and responded with my usual smile and a Nipa. I've been waiting. But if you were just 10 seconds later, I was thinking of leaving. Now see here, Rika. You were actually planning to leave me behind. But you made it in time, so it's okay. Let's go together. Nipa. As I saw that, I dodged the Toka who'd come flying out of the entrance. I could see Irie behind Takano, so he must have finished his phone call. There's no need to rush. You'll still make it on time. Hello. As senior members of the club, should we not be the first to welcome everyone? The very beginning is the critical moment. You want to get there early so you can set up a trap. Don't overdo it, okay? It would be so lonely if the new members had already had to say immediately goodbye to the existing members. I will make adjustments to account for that. Now, let us be off, Rika. It'd be such a shame to arrive after Keiichi, don't you think? Okay, see you next week. I lightly bowed my head as I said that, then turned around. I sensed a hint of sadness on Irie's face in the corner of my view, but I did my best to ignore it, because the person standing beside him was Takano. Okay, folks, I feel like that is also a really good narrative place to end, as well as being good for me, a person who is feeling fast and needs to eat something and get feeling back in their hand. I am going to say thank you very much for watching. It is very, very much appreciated. Thank you very much for coming along, and I do hope that you enjoyed. I will be streaming Nier Replicant this Saturday, where we're going to be continuing with the story, finally heading off to the Forest Myth, via, of course, a few side quests, mostly just ones that I need to hand in. Then on Sunday it'll be Destiny 2, where we'll be doing the latest season of the Splicer stuff and probably working on some more challenges. Then on... God, words are so difficult. Then on Tuesday it'll be Final Fantasy XIV, where we will be finishing off Zagnor, this time for real, and working on the relic weapons some more. And then next Thursday we'll continue Higurashi When They Cry, Miotsukushi, Omote, and seeing what happens as Keiichi becomes inducted. Also, it is my birthday next Monday. I may or may not be doing a birthday stream, it depends. I really haven't decided yet. It's also the first day of summer quarter, and even though summer quarter should be a lot easier than the last quarter was, I'm still a bit like, ugh, so we'll see. But either way, take care everybody, thank you very much for watching, I do appreciate it. Do have a wonderful evening and be excellent to each other, and I shall see you guys on Saturday. I remembered how to say it this time.